All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the, what day is it? August 10th, 2022 meeting of the Finance Executive Committee. I am Alex Wan. I serve as the chair. I'm joined by my colleagues. To my right, Councilmember Keisha Shawn Waits. To my left, Councilmember Howard Shook, who's also vice chair. To his left, Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari, and I also saw, to my right, Councilmember Jason Winston. We constitute a quorum, and therefore the meeting is now officially called to order. First item on the agenda is to adopt the agenda. Can I get a motion, please? I'll make a motion to adopt. Is there a second by Bakhtiari? Ooh, the wheels are already coming off. So motion by Wan, second by Bakhtiari, third by Shook. We can open that vote, please.
One moment, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Oh, Winston is an aye.
Oh, she has it. They haven't opened the vote yet. You can sign it.
Shook abstains. I mean,
Voice vote? Okay. All right, so can we, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion carries unanimously by all members present. All right, next item is approval of the minutes. Can I get a motion, please?
Motion to approve.
Motion from Winston, second by Bakhtiari. Voice vote on this as well, Ms. Lindo? All right. We'll take a voice vote on the motion to approve the minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Not allowed. By all members present. We are also joined by Councilmember Jason Dozier. All right. That now takes us to public comment. If you have not already done so, please sign up in the computers to the right, or to my right, or on the paper. As a reminder, you are allocated 3 minutes to speak. There will be a timer on the screen. I do ask that as the time winds down, you bring your comments to a conclusion. We're also joined by Councilmember Michael Julian Bond. Okay, first up is Ebony Walton.
Mr. Chair, one moment. We'll time the speaker as we're still trying to get the system booted. Yeah.
Is Ms. Walton, are you yielding your time to Ms. Pagnotta? All right. Shawanda Wilson. Thank you. Kwanzaa Cotton Waters. All right. Ms. Pagnotta Murphy, you're up, as is our standard. Well, there's a maximum of 10 minutes, so you've already hit the 10 minutes. Yeah.
I won't do you like the both sides and I already know the rules.
Thank you. We appreciate that very much.
Okay.
Good afternoon. Let me, hang on a second. Let me make sure you're, yep. Hi again.
Good afternoon, Finance Exec Committee. My name is Gina Pagnotta Murphy. I am president of PACE Union. One of the 4 unions that you've legislated that we can activate under our MOU, which is called a Memorandum of Understanding, not a collective bargaining, here in the city of Atlanta. I watched yesterday with so much heartburn on both sides of the fence for employees and leadership dealing with Department of Watershed. But let me make this clear for the record. I have no problem speaking to you on behalf of my membership. Nobody in my membership speaks on behalf of PACE but me unless I ask them to do so, and they will let you know. That is rare. So the gentleman with the bow tie, bless his soul, he does not speak for these employees of the city of Atlanta. I don't want to be ugly, but I have to say my intel has been informing me that such much ruckus is coming up because there's someone on city council, allegedly, that is inspiring these people, this one person, to do things. That is not the spirit of this union, that we do not do shutdowns, we do not do strikes, and we do not do work stoppage. That is against the code, and I stand by it. Even though passionately and heartburningly these folks need a raise and they need money, but there's a way to go about doing it. And to shut work down is not acceptable by this union. We have been working tirelessly with leadership. We have been working tirelessly with Department of Human Resources. And we have been working tirelessly with the administration. Still haven't got a meeting with them yet, but a promise is coming. But at the end of the day, we have asked this council and full council, some of the ones that this union has endorsed, haven't even returned my phone call. We've been asking 2 years in a row as of this year for a working session. Some of y'all remember that presentation. There's issues of pay imparity. These folks need their premium pay. It's not just Watershed. Watershed does need it. There's a lot of mess going on that I felt today, I felt stabbed in the back. And I'm going to be you all know me, who knows me, I'm transparent. I've talked with Commissioner Browning several times about what's been going on before this came to you. And what she told me, I put in a letter to my entire membership that $4.12 will go to grades 19 and below in the Department of Watershed to bring those people at $15 up, and she would get 1% to the rest of her team. She reallocated those funds out of her own budget. A lot of that did not happen, as I found out today when they went and looked in Oracle. When I reached out, thank you for the finance department for getting back to me right away and explaining to me, they don't monitor what the departments want to do, they just make it happen when it rises up. And Department of Watershed, according to the finance department, told them what they wanted, and that was the premium pay was not being done the way the rest of the city of Atlanta is being done. So I want to make sure that you understand that as passionate as I am about my employees, whether they're in this union or not, we got to find a way to work better than to do a work stoppage. I got a phone call before I came here this morning that these folks at R.M. Clayton in the Department of Watershed Management have not, this is allegedly, have not checked out. But my intel is telling me those folks have walked off the job because they saw 10-cent and 23-cent increase in their salary. I'm just giving you heads up on this. When I leave here today, I'm going to find out what's going on. Hemp Hill, I know we're working on some cases with Hemp Hill right now. We're doing that behind the scenes, and I don't like to say behind the scenes because we're doing it the professional and the appropriate way. To discuss with DHR and this commissioner, how can we get these folks money? But mind you, not only does the Department of Watershed need this premium pay, all of these departments need premium pay for these employees to consider critical. You don't know how many times can you count on E911 I've been asking for premium pay, ARP premium pay. They're there 24/7 answering those critical calls. We had the other day a call so strange, so hurtful, several employees had to get EAP. And we are losing these dispatchers. We're training them and they're going. Your sanitation workers, all them out there, they're not getting, well, that department so far I have not had any complaints. But let me make it clear, when we give one department a raise, we got to give everybody something. And DOT, I just found out today, haven't got their premium pay. So something is going on, and it's not going on right. I've asked several times, Ms. Liliana, thank you yesterday. I saw it on the YouTube that you're saying it's not one person's fault, it's all of our faults. And I'm going to say us because I'm part of your team, but it's y'all. Be real, it's y'all. Because you know, if you go back on Channel 26, this union has brought to you in paperwork, presentation, counts, analysis, everything for several years where you don't want to get to where we are today. We don't want a storm of employees. I can't stop them. That's one thing. I can only encourage them. Let's do it the right way. I can't tell you what they told me, but most of them are not in our union because we're professional. But it comes to a point when I can't get you to support me, to support you, to support them, that I got to stand back and let them do what they do and let the chips fall where they may. We don't want an anarchy here. We don't need employees have to go to somebody else that has no dog in this fight, that doesn't represent these unions, that doesn't represent these employees, that come to you and disrespect you, that I saw yesterday that I did not like. I'm sorry, I'm going to tell you like it is. And disrespect you, but you're ready to jump and do whatever they want to do, but this union professionally come to you, reach out to you by emails, send you calls, and you can't do what we ask. These employees need a raise. We need to sit at this table. I'm asking you again to have the top leaders, including PACE, ASME, fire, and police, like we used to do. Sit at the table with counsel, the finance exec or your representative, HR, and someone from that, the mayor's office, and sit down and figure out how can we together collectively in solidarity as a team make our employees happy. That's what I want to have done. Can y'all get that? I hear about this meeting coming up Friday. What I want to hear from you, can we meet the way it's supposed to meet, the way we used to meet, like we did when we had our pension? Can we meet to get this fixed? I don't have a problem with employees coming down speaking on their own. The problem I have when renegade people, and I'm going to say it, come and speak and down these unions, whether ASME or PACE, and you know, for me to speak positively of ASME is a big thorn, but I'm being truthful. We are the legislative unions for these people. And it's your duty that we expect and ask you to respect us. Don't ignore us. Listen to us when we come to you. Mr. Lewis was saying when we had at that presentation, what do you want for your employees? I said 10% increase. No, you ain't going to get 10% for everybody, but at least you asked for something. I told you it was a wish list. Y'all remember that? I gave you a presentation. What was going on 311? What was going on in E911? Premium pay. Made some suggestions. Made some solutions. Nothing happened. The only person that said something to me was Mr. Shook. Can you provide me with the evaluation? Y'all remember that? And we've been working on that and gave him a draft copy. We've been working tirelessly with Commissioner Norman on our memorandum of understanding. We're having some little hiccups, but I think we can get through it. But that wouldn't mean a thing to anybody once it's signed and it ain't governed. And the government is, we need to stop this salary range, which calls salary compression. Look at going back to increments. You come in at the level, you work your way up at this level, and you retire out. Just bringing people in on the outside to be competitive over the senior people that's been here, know this job and making more than what I'm making. This is what they are tired of. And then when every time we got to come and fuss about a raise, and then we got to come up here and I got to come off my job, like the gentleman said, these people, these employees got to stop their work to come here. I got to stop my work to come here too. I'm a park supervisor for fleet to keep your police vehicles running. And for me to come down here to try to get the record straight and beg for your help again after I've seen you 3 times this year is ridiculous. Please, please accept my high energy as a passion and no disrespect to any of your chairs. But I need your help for me to help you to get these employees back in the mindset that the city loves them, cares about them, and want to work. So instead of having this meeting, I mean, you can have the meeting on Friday. I want to hear from you, when can we have a working session? And that's all I got to say.
Thanks, Ms. Spagnano. I'm going to recognize Councilmember Shook.
Well, first of all, I'm glad to see you're working on overcoming your fear of public speaking. You're not invited to be a part of the Friday meeting that was much ballyhooed on Tuesday?
I have no idea what meeting. This is that third world organization that's getting together. Okay. I have know nothing about it.
All right.
So officially, I'm asking for a meeting with the unions.
That's a problem, probably for all of us. I mean, so. Hello, Mr. Amon. Good to see you here. Yeah. So that's a problem for me. She needs to be there, eh? Okay.
So I would ask if the Watershed Commissioner or someone from Watershed could either respond to that or make sure that, you know, we have the right people at that meeting. If someone could at some point during this meeting come and share that with us at the podium, that would be appreciated. All right, other comments or questions for Ms. Pagnotta from my colleagues?
Yes.
Go ahead, Ms. Bakhtiari.
Ms. Pagnotta, I know you called me last night. Was dealing with the situation, but we will talk today after this meeting. Promise.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you. And if you'll stick around, let's see what Watershed comes and says about that meeting. And I agree with you. I did write down that we do need to convene that group that you mentioned that we did in the past in terms of all the unions, the administration, the HR commissioner, just to as a touch base. So I make a note of that. So Ms. Lindo, if you'll help me remember that as well. All right, the last speaker to sign up is Darshell Varner-Davis.
Well, she was mine, but
Okay.
I already did my time.
Okay, all right.
Does she have a right to speak?
Yeah, if you would like to come to the microphone and speak, you can. So just a reminder, you have 3 minutes and just watch the clock as it counts down.
Like to pass my time over to Pace?
Yeah, do you have any comments you'd like to make for it?
Oh, yes. So I'm an employee in Public Works as well, and I also feel like the pay needs to be adjusted. I've been with the department for about 4 years now. I started out in an entry-level position. I've advanced with my job duties and the tasks that I do, but I'm still in the same position, same pay rate. So I as well feel like we should be increased to where we should be to live comfortably in the time that we're at.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. All right, is there anyone else are the people that have signed up, is there anyone else that thought they signed up that wanted to make a comment? Okay, seeing none, that concludes our public comment. We'll now move to presentations and updates. The first up is Department of Human Resources. The Commissioner Norman, you have the floor. And colleagues, you have a copy of the presentation as they bring it up on the screens.
Good afternoon, Councilmember Councilmember Juan and members of the Finance Executive Committee. Yeah, I noticed that Councilmember Juan was growing a beard. Appreciate the opportunity to appear before you this afternoon to provide some updates from the Department of Human Resources. Would like to start off by just thanking all of the members of the Department of Human Resources for their continued dedicated work here at the city. So we'll shift and show you that we're going to update you on a couple of things today. We'll talk a little bit about the things listed here today, and so I'll just go ahead and jump straight in. So just wanted to start off and talk a little bit about the fiscal year 23 wellness event that we sponsored on July 7th here at City Hall. And so you will see that that fiscal wellness event served two purposes. The mayor wanted to ensure, number one, that he did kick off the fiscal year with a pretty significant celebration and recognition for members of our workforce. You'll see that we had approximately 452 employees who were able to participate in that event. Did want to just highlight that as part of that, we did provide fiscal resources through WealthWave, Truist, Wells Fargo, as well as Invest Atlanta, who provided opportunities for some of the services that they do publicly provide. And so they served as vendors and provided direct interface with that client base. In addition to having an opportunity to provide that fiscal wellness piece, there was also direct interaction and recognition for our workforce. As the mayor has touted, his first budget is really identified as a people-first budget. Kind of shared some of the photos here. You'll see that the mayor addressed the crowd. We had a pretty cross-section of our employee workforce who was able to attend. You'll see that we had, just from some of the pictures, members from Public Works, the fire department, the police department, and others who were able to join us on that day. So it was definitely a success. Also wanted to share with you, and I think we have talked a little bit about this previously, and I know that this is actually something that Councilmember Dozier had brought up about employee resource groups here at the city. So I think everybody's aware that the city did kick off its first employee resource group for our LGBTQ community. That was back on June 28th. That was aligned with Pride Month. So that was a very successful undertaking. We have committed to make sure that we move forward with additional opportunities for employee resource groups here at the city. We will be kicking off a women's employee resource group during the month of August. So we do anticipate at the latter part of this month, we will be having a kickoff for that, so we can encourage people to join that group. Secondly, we have identified a November date to kick off the employee resource group for veterans. And so that will be aligned with Veterans Day during the month of November. We will also start survey work so that we can directly engage with our workforce community, so we can gauge the interest for additional employee resource groups. So as we kind of get that feedback from the employee population, we will also move forward with standing up additional resource groups as identified. Wanted to also just provide some of the data relative to the Employee Spotlight Award, which was stood up for FY22. As you guys are aware, that is an opportunity and a program that provides the ability for individuals to be recognized in 3 core categories. That is customer service, that is focused on equity, and is also focused on ethical conduct. And so you'll kind of just see some of the samples of some of the communications that we do send out citywide, where we do highlight some of those award recipients. To date, we have had 270 Employee Spotlight Award recipients. And so those are awarded on a quarterly basis, and you can kind of see the respective breakdowns for each quarter during FY22. Also, just wanted to kind of update you on the pandemic response efforts. As you're aware, we have conducted approximately 20 vaccination opportunities to our employee workforce. We had our 20th event back on June I think that's June 28th. That was in coordination with the NFL Alumni Association. That was held here at City Hall. And so you'll see from some of the pictures, we did have some alumni from the NFL who did appear. We did have a pretty good cross-section, not only of employees, but members of the general public. This was the first vaccination event that we did provide that was open to the general public as well. We were pleased to see that we had youth who were able to receive on-site vaccinations, as well as a pretty broad cross-section of individuals throughout the community. We will continue to gauge and monitor the impact of the pandemic as we move forward. As we continue to do, the city is aligned with the guidance that is being provided for prevention through the CDC. And so you'll see 2 of the examples of some of the guidelines that we continue to push out to our employee workforce, obviously relative to COVID, as we still continue to battle COVID. And secondly, now that we are looking at the monkeypox phenomenon, we will also continue to inform individuals about the potential impact of that and how to further protect themselves as we move forward. Wanted to also bring to your attention that August the 18th here at City Hall, DHR will be hosting a career fair that will provide an opportunity for individuals to come in and speak with hiring managers. So we will have a broad cross-section of all of our operating departments present, and they will be able to engage directly with potential applicants. We do have pre-registration available for the event. So we're currently, we have 120 plus folks who've already pre-registered. So we do anticipate that will be a very informative and lively event, and it will serve as a resource for all of the operating departments who participate to really identify potential talent going forward. In that same vein, just wanted to kind of also provide an update on some of our continuing talent acquisition efforts. You will see that, as we have done multiple events, this one is just highlighting the APD recruiting event that was held at Lenox Square Mall. That was July the 23rd. And so you'll see that there were approximately 72 attendees that participated in that program. Also wanted to highlight the midnight basketball. Obviously, that has been reported, from a cross-section of individuals who are involved in that. DHR also participates in those events by making sure that we do have recruiting staff on site, so that to the extent individuals do want to have job opportunities at the city, they can have those discussions while they're also enjoying the midnight basketball event. Also wanted to just highlight some of the health and wellness opportunities that we're engaged in as well, to make sure that we are focused on continuing to enhance health and wellness here at the City of Atlanta. You will see that we have upcoming on September 1st, what we consider to be one of the premier run-walk opportunities here at the City of Atlanta. That is the Kaiser Permanente Walk. Registration is open for that event. For Team City of Atlanta, we have a goal of 250 participants. So please definitely go to that website, encourage friends and family to register and participate in that event as well. As a follow-up, we recently also had the Sisters by Choice run walk. We had 102 Team City of Atlanta participants in that event. And so you kind of see some of the participants there. We had our COO, who is an avid runner herself, who participated, and you can see some of the photos of the City of Atlanta participants and the COO who addressed the crowd on site as well. Also wanted to just share a couple of additional events. We did have a men's health event, and so as part of that event, obviously we're able to work with some of our healthcare providers to provide, very timely and relevant tips to our employee workforce on how to really enhance their wellness, event. They did some on-site massages. They talked a little bit about, the importance of food choice, and so that was well attended. We had 53 employees who attended that event. We had a much more significant turnout at our Lunch and Learn from our third-party provider for our pension benefits. That was Strategic Benefit Advisors. And so that event was held on July the 12th. We had 150-plus employees who attended that event. We do have future events scheduled so that we can still continue to reach all of our employee population. While we will have additional events here at City Hall, we'll also make sure that we schedule some of those events at some of our off-site facilities so we can have some of our frontline workers who have more readily available access to participate in those events as well. Next, just wanted to provide a couple of statistics relative to our ongoing blood drive efforts in coordination with the Red Cross. You will see that we have had 2 events thus far. We have another event scheduled on August the 18th. Thus far, we've had 59 employees who have donated blood as part of those blood drive efforts, which equates to approximately helping to assist 171 plus individuals with their blood donation leave requirements. Lastly, we wanted to also touch on our employee assistance program, psychological services. Just let you guys know that, we have finally had an opportunity to stand up an individualized EAP website. And so that is a much more robust opportunity for folks to have direct access to those wellness resources. You'll all see that as embedded in that website with relevant topics is the EAP newsletter, and there is also an FAQ that will provide all of the information that individuals need. And also wanted to just note that the EAP office has relocated from what was 72 Marietta Street. They are now located at 185 Ted Turner Drive. So I wanted to shift a little bit to training and organizational development. And so as we continue to push out and leverage our ATL Cloud Learn system, we continue with our mandated training opportunities for our entire employee workforce. And so we have recently reported on some of our mandated compliance. Two of the newer things that have been pushed out has been the I Speak training. I think everybody should be familiar with that. Secondly, in response to legislation that came through this committee, we did develop and push out our City of Atlanta manager and supervisor grievance training. And so that has gone out. We have kind of reached through the cycle of that training, so we definitely had above 90% fulfillment of that mandate. We will continue to also reinforce that training and guidance in live opportunities outside of the self-paced training. The next mandated training that is scheduled to be presented that you will see being uploaded in ATL Cloud is going to be the Georgia Open Records Compliance Training. So please be on the lookout for that and others as we kind of reset and start that annual mandated training cycle for the FY23 fiscal year. So I know we just want to say, number one, thank you to Gina Pagnotta and Pace. I know that she had some very lively comments at the beginning of the meeting. We definitely have a very close relationship with Pace. As Ms. Pagnotta indicated, we are feverishly working on completing and the updated memorandum of understanding with Pace as well as AFSCME. And so you will see that coming before this committee in the near future once we do finalize that document. Did want to touch a little bit of some of the compensation initiatives out there, since I know there is a lot swirling relative to compensation and pay here at the city. And so just wanted to start off with some of the public safety initiatives. And so as this council is aware, the mayor did commit to retention bonuses to provide a brief bridge till we get to the other side of the compensation study. That provided opportunities for $4,000 for an agreement for those officers to stay with the city for an additional 18 months. We have put out those agreements. To date, we have had approximately 1,295 sworn employees who have returned those agreements, and so those are being processed as they roll in, so folks can take advantage of those funding opportunities. There also was previous legislation passed before this committee that went into effect on July 1st of this year. And so that was for the sworn corrections officers in the Department of Corrections. So those have become effective. So just wanted to provide an update on that. Similarly, with the Fire Rescue Department, as part of the personnel paper for FY23, there were tier adjustments that were put in place. We anticipate that all of those will be completed and populated on the sworn employees' paychecks on August the 26th. So wanted to provide an update there as well. Then wanted to shift, and I know the writing is a little bit small here, but wanted to touch on a couple of different categories because I know some of these things tend to be kind of spoken of interchangeably. So just wanted to make sure everybody had clear line of sight of what we're talking about when we talk about these different categories here. So we can start off with premium pay. And so premium pay was a program that was initiated so that we could really, capture leveraging American Rescue Plan dollars, some of our critical frontline infrastructure workers. The goal was to focus on those individuals who had received no compensation treatment at the City of Atlanta, and that tended to be folks who were closer to the minimum wage here at the city. And these individuals, we currently have about a little bit over 1,500 individuals who have been identified for participation in that program. That is comprised of, I believe that's roughly about 138 individual job classifications. I know there were discussions about the Department of Watershed Management as I think the council is aware, as part of the FY23 budget, in addition to American Rescue Plan dollars that are being utilized for the majority of departments, there was also a sum of money that was identified for outside of American Rescue Plan dollars that was provided to the Department of Watershed Management, so they could additionally facilitate compensation treatment for employees within the Department of Watershed Management. Couple of things of note for Department of Watershed Management employees. It's important to note that prior to COVID, their employees have always had a additional component of their pay based on the nature of their work. So, for example, in Watershed, there is a 3.5% component that is already embedded in some of the Watershed employees' rate of pay. And that is to account for the nature of the work that they perform of a hazardous nature. And so, take into account of that, when we had previously looked at the Department of Watershed Management, those salaries look much differently than the salaries in the Department of Public Works, Department of Parks, DEEM, and a lot of these other departments where there has been continuous movement, continuous compensation treatment within the Department of Watershed Management. What the Department of Watershed Management did commit to was that making sure that not only did they bring, and I just want to look at a couple of metrics here, there were approximately 188 employees in the Department of Watershed Management that have been brought up to $19.12. That encompasses approximately 17 job classifications. Then there are an additional 1,100 employees who received a pay increase. That is a 1% increase. And then there will also be the 2% cost of living adjustment that hits all city employees January 1st of 2023. I also think it's important to note before we move from premium pay, when we talk about this $4.12 on top of an individual's base pay, I just want to quantify what that really looks like. And so when we talk about $4.12 an hour, when you look at that from an annualized basis, I mean, you're right under $8,000 for the year. So when you speak of these individuals who are getting premium pay, you know, that's an additional $8,000 that these folks are seeing, recognizing that, once again, these are still stopgap opportunities for our lower paid individuals. The purpose of premium pay is not to right size the pay scale. That is going to be the result of the upcoming citywide compensation study. And so we are hopeful that we will be coming back to this committee to finalize selection of a vendor to perform that citywide comp study in September. And we will then hope that we have those results back prior to the end of December. We will have a phased approach to that study. And so we do believe we'll have that market data back at the end, no later than the end of the second quarter. And then obviously we'll be having discussions about how that impacts planning for FY24. The next topic I just wanted to briefly touch on is the Extinguished Hazard Pay Program, because people tend to interchange hazard pay with premium pay. The hazard pay program was originally implemented after the onset of COVID-19. That program was designed to impact our frontline employees, and that was defined at that time as our mission critical employees who were required to report for in-person duty. That was approximately 5,400 members of our workforce. That program provided a $500 per month incentive to those employees during that period of time. That program has since been extinguished. The same is true of the hazard pay compensatory time program, which also provided the accrual of additional compensatory time hours. That program is also extinguished at this point. It's also important to note that all of that time, hazard pay compensatory time that was accrued during that period, does not have an expiration date, and so that time survives an individual's tenure here at the city. They are eligible to receive a quarter of that time as a payout when they leave employment with the City of Atlanta. Next category, just wanted to point out, was the COVID, what is referred to often as COVID-19 pay. That continues the City of Atlanta's current policy that for employees who do provide proof of a positive COVID-19 test, remain in a paid status during that 5-day quarantine period. And so they do not have to accrue either their annual leave or their sick leave for those 5 days. Next, just wanted to also reference what I've already said about the cost of living adjustments. All employees except for sworn fire personnel will receive a 2% cost of living adjustment. That is to go into effect January 1st of 2023. And last, just wanted to reference citywide compensation study. And so that is designed to really do an evaluation of all of the positions here at the City of Atlanta. Next, just wanted to briefly touch on the housing wage. There had been legislation that had been submitted by Councilmember Westmoreland and others identifying, feasibility of a housing wage here at the City of Atlanta. So did want to provide that data. Obviously, this will be encompassed as well as we analyze the results of the data from the citywide compensation study. But you'll kind of see that when you're talking about for a single bedroom home in this region, you're looking at $18.09 really as the appropriate housing wage. And if you're looking at a 2-bedroom, that's $20.97. And you can see the corresponding individuals here at the city who are in those current ranges or below those current ranges. Lastly, did want to reshare our metrics. We did share these during our budget presentation, and so these are those same metrics, but it kind of walks you through the time to fill metrics, the offer acceptance rate, employee turnover, the mandated training completion rates, our EAP utilization rate, as well as our labor and employee relations completion rates for investigations. And so that will conclude our presentation for DHR today, and available for any questions.
Thank you, Commissioner. We've got a queue starting up with questions, starting with Mr. Shook, followed by Councilmember Bond.
Okay, thank you. Tell us where the paying class study is tracking.
So we currently have an RFQ that is out, and so we anticipate that we will hopefully have those evaluations and ready to bring that successful proponent before this council, hopefully near the beginning of September. I think we will be gearing toward having something to you no later than that council meeting that is scheduled a little bit after Labor Day.
Okay. So Tuesday, there was a lot of discussion and assertions made about watershed management employees not getting a raise in 10 years or 20 years. And so this committee asked for a 20-year look back. So I assume that it comes to you to provide that data. I just want to make sure you're aware of that.
So we'll definitely assist with facilitating that. I know that as recently as, last Friday, I know that I, as well as along with Commissioner Browning, had an opportunity to sit down with employees at Hemp Hill. And so, I think that there are some miscommunication amongst some of the staff as that group found out during the course of that meeting. They had actually received a significant raise, and so there was just some miscommunication about how those things were being pushed out by the Department of Watershed management, which is why we encourage them to continue having those direct discussions. I know Commissioner Brown and his plan to go out to the facility to speak a little bit about some of the operational issues. But there definitely has been ongoing compensation treatment within the Department of Watershed Management over the several last years.
I just want to make sure that we're going to timely get the accurate look back on that. And then lastly, and I want to thank Simon Properties and Lennox Mall for hosting that event. 73 attendees, I believe you said?
Yes.
And was that just devoted to people interested in police applications? And then
That was directed toward public safety, yes, police.
And how many applications resulted from that?
So I will have to pull that. Yeah, I have to pull that data, but I can provide that to you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bond, then Mr. Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Norman, for your presentation. I have a question about an issue surrounding pay in class. I know often, since we pay in ranges, a lot of times we have brought people in probably at a higher rate than some of those who are currently working in X position. Is the pay in class study going to look at that policy?
That is correct. So there will also be, that will, in addition to the market data, there will also be an analysis of job descriptions, the actual salary grade. We will be looking at equity parity amongst employees, and so all of that will ultimately be encompassed in that exercise, and we'll receive recommendations relative to that as well. And just so you know, we in the interim, we do continue to do assessments relative to pay equity throughout several of the departments, and so we have been continuously addressing those pay equity issues at the department level.
I know back in the Reid administration, we passed some legislation to do a biannual panel to look at the public safety salaries, and it's not really been continued in the future. Is that something that you would be interested in continuing? Because I know that particularly for our police salaries, we're falling behind some of the smaller cities, and I think Sandy Springs is now up to $100,000 annually for some of their police salaries.
Yeah, I think the good thing is that, you're always going to have somebody who's going to have fresher, newer information. We have conducted compensation studies both within the police department as well as the fire department. They have both had realignment within their respective tier structures. We have implemented pay raises for both of those groups. They will also be included in our citywide compensation study efforts, and we do anticipate that when we do get to the other side of that, we will also have different resources allocated going forward for a different type of cadence going forward to ensure that not only within our public safety agencies but across the city that we have a focus there from a compensation review going forward. So we're not looking at this continuous gap in having access to that type of data.
Okay, I hope you would include the corrections officers, because they're also
corrections is included as well. Yes,
sworn personnel. Has there been any consideration about the 911 operators becoming sworn personnel?
So I've not been involved in any discussions relative to that part of the workforce being sworn. Obviously, they have been identified, as first responders, and that legislation came through this council. We have also engaged in doing market work there. As you're aware, there were compensation increases back in January of 21 for that member of the population, those members of the population. At that same time, there was also additional tiers created within that group as well for career development opportunities and to provide for the opportunity to have higher salary opportunities as well. But that work will continue along with the work that's been happening citywide, and so we will have access to all of that data as determinations are made about future compensation here at the city.
Okay, as I close out, I'm going to jump around away from your presentation. I know that I saw an article this morning that 2 Fulton County employees have come down with monkeypox. And I know that it is growing in Georgia at an alarming rate. What are we doing to continue to protect our employees? And part 2 to this question is, I know that we were at some point expecting City Hall to completely open back up and all the employees to return. But now, given what's going on with monkeypox, where is that, and how are we dealing with this? So COVID continues to change and morph.
No, thank you for the question. Obviously, the city continues to be concerned about the health and safety of all the members of our workforce. As regards monkeypox, our Office of Emergency Preparedness continues to, interface with Fulton County as well as other health officials relative to making sure we have up-to-date information. We will be pushing out some monkeypox information from DHR and the Office of Emergency Preparedness. We've already shifted out some guidance, but we are going to provide some really detailed guidance for folks to make sure that they understand, what the symptoms are, how they're to respond if they're exposed to someone, what to really look out for. One of those main components is, a rash that's associated with the onset of monkeypox. And so really, we are, department heads are having those discussions directly with their employees. We are putting together a policy that will provide guidance there and what the response is and what some of those safety protocols are. So keep an eye out for that. But I know the emergency preparedness director is here as well. He can speak to, some of that from that perspective, but it's something that is a very hot topic. In recognition of, that additional danger, the city will continue to balance the ability to make sure that we continue to provide service delivery excellence to our customer base, recognizing that there's still a balance. We are still operating in a hybrid environment, and so we still have folks who are balancing those customer service delivery needs along with the opportunity for folks to also do telework opportunities where necessary. But as you're aware, more than half of our workforce is required on a daily basis to still perform their duties in person. The fortunate thing is we do have a significant stockpile of PPE and those types of resources. We are making sure we stay on top of sanitizing facilities and equipment. We will continue to do that, and we'll continue to provide those educational opportunities to members of the workforce.
Thank you, as always, for your very thorough presentation.
Thank you, sir.
I withdraw, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Bond. Next up is Council Member Jado.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much for your presentation, Commissioner Norman. And I'll tell you, I'm really excited to see y'all move forward on not only the various different employee resource groups, but specifically the ones centered around veterans. I think it's so important for our veteran employees to know that they're not alone. I think oftentimes veterans get pigeonholed as, hey, all I can do is law enforcement, all I can do is go become a firefighter, but this helps tell the story that veterans are also our fleet managers, our HR specialists, our sanitation workers, even our city council members. So just showing that our veteran community is diverse and that the city of Atlanta is committed to that community to ensure that they know that they have a home here. And I'm just really curious too, if in your evaluation of how to get that program off the ground, if we've seen if other cities have taken that step, because I imagine that could be very powerful for our storytelling, that Atlanta's the first to do something like this at this scale. So just curious, just kind of anecdotally, if you've seen anything else in other cities similar to what?
Yeah, I mean, we have, obviously, we see a lot of that outside of the public sector. We do think we're early on in the public sector for standing up these individual groups. We're still doing benchmarking as we continue to roll these out. We did want to be responsive to making sure we stood these up. We think that there are a lot of critical things that are happening across the nation that really have fueled the need for some of these, so we did want to advance those pretty quickly. So we'll continue to push those opportunities out, but we'll make sure that we kind of report back some of that benchmarking data as well, so we kind of know how to communicate that story and, really the true value to the city.
Thank you so much, and just let me know how I can support in that effort as well.
Okay, will do. Thank you, sir.
My next question is around the presentation around housing wages.
Yes.
So, it looks like $20.97 per hour for a two-bedroom is what the wage is statewide. Yes. And, I was a humanities major, so apologies if my math is off, but I'm guessing that around 35% of our city employees fall beneath that threshold. That is
correct.
So then I see on the last slide you have here for the different KPIs and metrics for employee turnover rate, benchmarks 5%, 16.8% is the turnover that we're currently seeing year to date. I imagine there's probably some connection between the two where employees feel that they can make more in other opportunities.
Yeah, and just to be clear, we kind of set that benchmark pre-pandemic. With that 5%, what you'll see is that the average nationwide currently during the pandemic is around, for municipalities around 18%. Okay. So, that you've seen a significant uptick there, and there are several reasons for that. As I'm sure you're aware, people have reassessed, some of their quality of life preferences, and so we do start to see that impact in, the city. And there's no getting away from the fact that with the tight labor market, there are increased opportunities, across the nation, here regionally. If you continue every day, you cut on the TV, like everyone else, you see that there are extreme shortages, whether that be for drivers, whether it be for any type of laborer. And so those things are impacting everyone, and the city is not immune to that, which is why we do continue to focus on making sure that we're evaluating, how to really incentivize, folks to stay with the city and also communicate out with folks. And if you take a look at, where we provided that career fair information, there's just a quick, one-pager, which is a two-sided document, but it just kind of identifies these are really some of the things that you can get, as a city employee. And so, one of the things I've had a pathway of folks who have made their way to DHR, even as, they have realigned eligibility under the public loan forgiveness program. And so, that is something that kind of flies under the radar for a lot of folks, but it's a big thing and a big draw for folks to really commit to public service. And so part of it is making sure we're also communicating out the true value for our total compensation program here at the city, which does provide a pretty significant level of stability. If you look at our health care program, we really do have very generous, healthy benefits here at the city. And so I think part of it, even when we talk about these base pay, minimum wage, housing wage numbers, we have to include all of those other variables because it ultimately tells the bigger picture of why, public service can also be rewarding and provide in these unstable times some stability in people's lives.
And I appreciate that. And the reason why I'm tugging on the housing wage string a little bit is because just anecdotally, as I've talked to city employees, watershed employees, parks employees, just when I'm out and about, I typically ask, where do you live? Do you live in a city? If not, why? And a lot of them want to live in a city. Yep. And they can't afford to live in the city anymore. And thinking about how can we be innovative about ensuring our city employees have a space or a place in the city, seeing what some of our sister jurisdictions and some of the things they've done. APS has been working with Invest Atlanta on a project called 98 Cone to create kind of a teacher village. So giving teachers and APS employees first access or first, marketing specifically to that population. So, because seeing that that housing wage and how many employees below that, a lot of our employees will qualify for the affordable housing set-asides that we have through Invest Atlanta or through Atlanta Beltline. And so if there's a way to marry that need and that opportunity together in such a way so that our city employees benefit, I would love to see how we can move in that direction, recognizing that, the more employees that stay in the city, that's a net benefit for all of us, I think. And with just in conversations we've had with our Office of Housing and the evaluation of properties currently owned by the city for development, to me, I think that our city employees should be the first people we think about, especially considering that the pay that they have is at a rate that's lower than, the state housing ways, to see if that is an opportunity to ensure that they can continue to benefit from those sorts of opportunities. That it's still affordable housing, still allows us to meet our goals. Yeah. Let's ensure our city employees are taken care of.
Okay.
Just a thought on that.
Yeah. And thank you for that observation. Obviously, the mayor continues to be focused on affordable housing, here in the city of Atlanta. And, just did want to mention, Chief Operating Officer has a laser focus on that topic as well. So that will also be part and parcel of some of those things that, she's driving forward with some efforts on. So, yeah, we'll definitely.
And then my last question, I know we talked about the various different premium pay and so forth, and COVID pay was one of those. As we are looking at just the rise of monkeypox across the city and across the region, across the nation, are we exploring opportunities for monkeypox pay, for instance, if city employees have to be out of commission due to that? Is that something that we could look at to ensure that our city employees know that we're taking care of them beyond?
Yes, we do anticipate that we will. Obviously, you have different recovery periods associated with monkeypox than you do COVID-19. We have benchmarked, a lot of data, and so that will be part and parcel of what's spelled out in some of the policies we'll be pushing out in the next week or so.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. We'll look forward to it.
Okay. Thank you.
I yield the floor.
Thank you, Councilmember. I have a couple questions. I'll try and make them quick. I want to, on top of the monkeypox conversation, to the extent that we can partner with Fulton County and be as aggressive as possible to make vaccinations available, I think that is probably the first step. They're hard to get right now, but to the extent that we as a government entity can help provide access, I hope that there are conversations going on about that.
There are definitely conversations going on. I know the Office of Emergency Preparedness is almost in daily contact with Fulton County, so those conversations are definitely going on.
As I said, that's probably one of the best things we can do for those employees that might come in contact with that. Second question is around the employee resource groups. How are those resourced in terms of staff or even funds to do activities?
And so from a model perspective, so the first one we kicked off, the LGBTQ resource group, there was funding within the Office of LGBTQ Affairs, which was already available for that purpose, and so they were able to leverage those dollars. As we look at the women's resource group, we have also been looking at, some external boards and agencies, so Atlanta Commission on Women, some of these different groups, and so we do plan to make sure that we leverage with some dedicated owners that are associated with these resource groups, and then we will make sure that they through those partnerships are really able to fund those things. We do want them to be able to grow and function independently, and so we don't necessarily want to have a thumb on any of those groups, but we will make sure we identify, the appropriate resources, and it may be different based on the nature of the group.
I think that's real important, especially as you're trying to get them off the ground, that to the extent that they have the capacity to do, I'm sure they have a lot of great ideas.
Yep.
We don't want to stifle that. In fact, we want to nurture it with that kind of support. So,
correct.
I'm glad to hear that as well. And then finally, around the telework and telecommuting policies, are those set department by department by the commissioners, or is it in terms of reviewing which positions are appropriate and to what level, if it's a certain percentage of time that they should be in the office versus at home?
So those are established at the department level, because obviously the primary focus is service delivery, and so those operational decisions are really made at each individual department level. The shared focus for all of the departments is really about making sure that we do have appropriate service delivery, and that may mean that based on your function, there may be more of an in-person requirement, but there are a lot of functions that may work well being able to leverage hybrid work or telework. But there has to be a constant evaluation of the ability to really deliver, and that continues to be very fluid in the current environment. So those determinations, continue to be made almost on a weekly basis.
I agree with Councilmember Bond. I think that at this point, to the extent that we can be ambitious about, and as safely as possible, but in terms of just constituent interaction and service, I do think there is a value in a lot of things to move more towards in-person, in-office versus the inertia right now that is just everybody's been used to working at home over the last 2 years. We just kind of start nudging, and that goes for us as well, quite frankly. So, okay, I appreciate hearing that.
Noted. Thank you.
Any other questions for the Commissioner? I do want to acknowledge this could potentially, given the announcements from the administrations, this could potentially be your last quarterly report to us in this.
That is correct. This will be the last quarterly report.
And I do want to, although our time overlapped only 8 months, I do want to thank you for your service in this role during a very, very difficult and unpredictable and unexpected time. But the fact that you were willing to step up into the role and serve the way you did, I do want to thank you. I'm also grateful that you're staying in the City of Atlanta family, returning back to the law department and wreaking havoc over there as best you can. But again, I just want to express my gratitude. I'm sure there will continue to be rolling up expressions of appreciation until the new commissioner comes on board. But let me be the first.
Much appreciated. Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you.
All right.
All right, next up we have the Department of Customer Service. I believe Ms. Good will be here to walk us through her presentation.
Good afternoon. I'm Maisha Good, Commissioner of the Department of Customer Service, in which ATL 311 falls under. So ATL 311 core services. Let me see if I can work this. Does it need to? So this is not working. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. So some of our core services and support areas, we support business licenses, water and sewer, garbage, graffiti, recycling, of course, municipal court, public safety needs, parks, recreation, sidewalks, and supportive services, just to name a few. Our operating hours are from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., and there are various ways to reach us. You can, of course, dial 311 or our full 10-digit number, or email us, and you can always go to our portal at atl311.com. So some operational improvements, and this is covering from the beginning of the year until last month, so from January to July. So the operational efficiency that we focused on, we're training our new hires and cross-training our current agents to handle all calls. This will provide higher customer satisfaction, lower handle call times, and better first call resolution, while enhancing our team member skill set. We also focused on effective management. So the path forward, we started this initiative under our new director, who started with us a few months ago. And what she did was she started to create an even more healthier environment within ATL 311. So this created a culture of feedback, motivation, leading our teams through change, and focusing on effective communication with team members and business stakeholders. Since implementing the path forward and resetting ATL 311 leadership expectations, we have seen a drastic drop in our attrition. So currently we're holding at about 3% in our attrition rate. And including with the path forward, we've also combined efforts with workforce management And so with this team is processing of creating multi-skill queues, which will create a flexible workforce which provides the ability to schedule and forecast our agents to meet the needs of our constituents. Some highlights. So for the administration and call center area, we were awarded the 2022 Transparent Diamond Award. And of course, this is a recognition for filing ethics financial disclosures in a timely manner. Under our Innovation Performance Accountability team, we enhanced new hire training by adding quality assurance, a process that helps ensure customer interactions, which also aligns with our business goals. Our complaint summary report was also updated, and so now it includes compliments. And so we emphasize all the great work the City of Atlanta employees are doing, and we ensure that this is shared with departments as well. The new complaint process allows DPW to view their complaints daily versus monthly, providing a quicker response to customers when necessary. Under supportive services, which supports policing, alternatives, and diversion, we started a partnership with Partners for Home to complete self-referral homelessness assessments and book available emergency shelter beds. This team also collaborated with E911 for public indecency calls, in which this will start in the fall of this year. These calls will be referred to PAD. In July 2022, we partnered with Atlanta Volunteers Lawyers Foundation to facilitate outreach to individuals experiencing partner abuse or domestic violence. The supportive services team completed in-depth E911 training for call transfers of public indecency which will start in the fall, and the supportive services team participated in a hands-on training with PAD and assisted in community response services. Our social media team launched a social media survey in March 2022, which I will go over a little later. And we also launched community meeting feedback and community event survey, which launched in June. We surpassed 25,000 mobile app downloads in May. So even though our mobile app is not integrated into our CRM, our constituents still seek after the mobile app and actually download it and read the information that's on there. So we're grateful for that. But I will also discuss the mobile app as well, because I know that is very important. We also had an average impressions on the SUFA signs, and these are just signs that were placed around the city of Atlanta. And the information we posted, we saw about 58.5 thousand impressions from customers throughout the city. We also started to use the new Ike signs the city has started to put up. So far we posted 2 graphics on that sign. So SUFA is now transitioning to Ike. And lastly on this page, we have attended, our ambassador team have attended over 191 community meetings and events since the start of 2022. We need some help here. Thank you. So for the operational performance, so human resources, we have a strong relationship with our business relations manager. And what we've seen so far since, and this is only covering for July, we had 113 positions filled 100. Our field rate is about 88%, and our total vacancies in the department are 13 positions. So overall in the department, we're seeing a 12% vacancy rate. Correction to this slide, we have currently 41 customer service representatives, 5 team leads, 8 new hires that just started on the floor, and we have 6 new hires that started last week. So we're happy to add more to our workforce in the call center. Out of the turnover reasons for fiscal year 23, 1 was a dismissal or a term, and 3 resigned. So far, number of employees separated during the month of July is 4. For our call volume data, we've seen our highest in March, which was about 46,261 calls, and the lowest was actually last month at 39,394 calls. We typically range between 39,000 and 46,000 calls per month. For our supportive services team, we've noticed an increase. So the increase actually started in June, and we saw the calls come in at 1,151 last month. For June, I'm sorry, and then in July we saw 1,075, with the lowest in February, where we received 637 calls. And we're continuing to see an increase in this area as well. Next, we'll talk a little bit about our metrics and how things are looking for us. So for the 4 that's covered on this page, the first is the PAD queue. So our metric is that we answer 80% of calls within 60 seconds. So what we're seeing here for PAD is that we answer 96 to 98% of our calls. For Watershed, we started in May, 82% of the calls being answered. But we did have a rocky start in January up until April, but we saw a turnaround in May. For code enforcement, we have seen the turnaround came in June, where we answered 77% of the calls, though we were short, but we did much better than we saw in previous months. And then in July, we were at 80% answering those calls in a timely manner. For Public Works, we saw the turnaround here in May, where we started to answer those calls at 82% of the time within our metric, and we're continuing to meet that need as well. So what we did in these areas, and I'll also talk a little bit more about some other cues, is that we had to do some automation. So that automation was, we worked closely with AIM in ServiceNow, where we went into the system to see where we can enhance the system for our agents. So we automated a few things in the back end. We also, as I mentioned before, we're motivating our team, we're incentivizing our team, and we're continually onboarding. And lastly, we are training our agents in multiple queues. The next area, we are covering general information. And these are really calls that do not need a fulfillment or a service request, but people are just calling in for information. So we saw a turnaround here in May, where we were starting to answer the calls right at 73% in a timely manner, but we are continuing to answer those within our metric. For municipal courts queue, we've seen a turnaround. We saw the turnaround in June at 70%, and last month we were at 77%. So we're still working to get to that 80% mark, but we have noticed a 13% increase since last month in the call volume for municipal court. For general information Spanish queue, and this doesn't require fulfillment either, but just folks kind of calling in for general information. What we've seen here is that we're answering these calls within 65% of the time, so we are staffing up in this area and training our team properly on how to handle these calls. Our municipal court Spanish queue, we're answering those calls within 73% of the time, and we're doing the same thing as staffing up in this area. Spanish is our #1 language. Next is Korean, and lastly Turkish. But we typically get mostly Spanish. For call statistics, which is what we measure as well, so our average handling time is holding right at 6 minutes, 43 seconds. And we're able to answer the call within 48 seconds. Earlier in the year, you heard calls where, folks were waiting 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes. So I'm happy to say that we're doing much better in answering the calls. So our wait times are shorter. Our handle time is getting shorter as well. So I'm proud of the team in this area. So post-call survey results. So what we're seeing here is most folks who responded to this has told us that our IVR is easy to use, our agents are friendly and knowledgeable. Their overall experience was, they were very satisfied, and they are likely to recommend 311. For our top 5 cases, and I'm just going to highlight the top 2 for each of the departments with the highest call volume. So the first is Watershed. Their top 2, we've seen property owner or renter request to establish new water and sewer bill account services, and the second one is account information for active water and sewer account. For DPW, we're seeing book collection coming in at number 1, and secondly, damaged garbage bin replacement is number 2. For municipal court, number 1 is when is my court date and time. I failed to appear at court is the second one, and thirdly, how much is my court fine and how do I pay? And I highlighted that as number 3 because they have a lot of cases in this area. For code enforcement, we're seeing junk trash and debris, private property only, and secondly, overgrown grass. For finance, we're seeing business license renewal and registering a new business in the city of Atlanta are their top 2. For ADOT, we're seeing potholes coming in at number 1, and street light bulb replacement or street light is out or missing has number 2. And for PAD or supportive services, the first one is policing alternatives and diverging basic needs for a customer, or secondly, finding housing for a customer. For Notify ATL campaigns, we focused on DPW public pickup reminders, ATL Core, and DPW schedule changes. And these campaigns were asked of us by the department. And also I want to thank many of you for attending our training recently that our staff person held for you and your teams on how to use Everbridge, which we call Notify ATL. For PAD and supportive services, just want to highlight this a little bit more. So for immediate ATL 311 referrals, the service level for PAD in this area, once we refer someone, has been 45 minutes typically. From January to 2021 through August 2022, they've been at 43 minutes response time. Year-to-date average response time is 40 minutes, and average response time for June and July of 2022, 25 minutes. For outreach calls, and this is one where a customer has identified a person that frequents an area a lot, and so what they do is they'll call us and say, hey, we have so-and-so out here, he's typically got here at 6 p.m., we need for you all to come out and assist him. So we will refer to PAD this information, and they usually respond within 72 hours. Since past inception of working with us, we've seen they have responded to 96% of community response requests. On an average, they are about 3 hours and 7 minutes to respond, and for year-to-date average response time, 3 hours and 11 minutes. And for immediate, I think I skipped, for immediate, I just want to say this is for someone that is at the location, and we ask PAD to go out, and they will within 45 minutes. And outreach is within 72 hours. Some general points as of August 1st, 2022, PAD has received more referrals this year than all of 2021. Since PAD's inception in January 2021, they have responded to 1,427 community response requests. For social media, we've seen an uptick here. We have 11,563 followers, and we've also noticed Facebook, Twitter, Instagram has continued to hold strong with service requests, and our team has been doing a great job with response in this area. Some of the kudos they have received, and I'll just highlight 2. One is the social media channel for 311 has been extremely efficient and helpful for me. Every time I reach out over social media, I get a prompt response and my issue is handled. The second is, whoever runs ATL 311, I like to just say I'm falling for you more and more each day. So we appreciate all the kudos. Our social media data, we're seeing about 10,870 messages received. Out of those 10,000 plus, they have submitted for fulfillment, which are service requests, 2,763 cases, and this data references from January 2022 through July. The survey feedback here is that mostly the social media platform you use, is it easy? Strongly agree. Were you satisfied with your overall experience? Yes. And 2, was the social media rep friendly, knowledgeable, and professional? Yes. And how likely are you to recommend 311? Very likely. So we're seeing some positive responses there. For our back office and escalation, this team takes service requests via email or through our ATL301.com portal. This team has processed over 24,462 cases, and they've escalated 4,087 cases. And these escalations are from City Council, myself, the Mayor's Office, and so some of you may have spoken to this team a time or two, but they're doing a great job here in escalations. And also, we've had some mixed reviews, so I will read a few of these because they handle the surveys that's coming through the portal. Here, someone said, great website and followed through with a living Atlanta on the phone and on the ground. Thank you for your service. But we also had someone to say, the website is not well built. I was hoping for better, and we are in alignment with that as well. So with that, what we're doing is technology enhancements. So phase 1, we're working very closely with AIM. We will be launching mid to late September of this year. Our mobile app will be back integrated with our CRM. So those of you that love submitting service requests that way, it would be much easier. It will not direct you to our portal like it's doing now. You can do everything on the app. Also, we will be launching a chat bot, and we will be enhancing our website because we have heard our customers. So this will help with decreased call volume and call wait times, reduce complexity in call center agent workload and burnout, and also improve speed of first call resolution. For phase 2, we will be launching our new CRM. This will probably be done within fiscal year 24. So this will replace our existing CRM application with a more robust end-to-end solution. It will also enhance functionality and user experience, reduce or eliminate customization, and lastly, process standardization and automated case flow creation. So far what has happened, the RFI was completed last week. We had 9 responses from vendors. We've held meetings to gather requirements from impacted departments as well as our own. And as of yesterday, we submitted our RFP package to procurement so we could start the formal procurement process of identifying a vendor for the CRM. Once a vendor is selected, it would take about 9 to 12 months to fully launch the new CRM. And the reason behind that is because you're talking about installation, configuration, testing, training, and then implementation. I would like to just give kudos to our Department of Customer Service ATL 301 team. You all are amazing. I know you're looking and watching, so hello. But thank you all for your hard work and dedication to customer service. That concludes my report. Any questions?
Thank you for the report, Commissioner. Do we have questions? First up is from Councilmember Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Commissioner Good. I appreciate the presentation. Very informative, and so I was trying to figure out some questions to ask, because I do have some, but it led to more questions, and I'll get through that. But I just really appreciate all the different angles that you shared with us. One of them, it was actually related to your last slide, and that was with the upcoming technology implementation timeline. If you could talk through what feature enhancements will come from the new CRM. I think when we spoke before, I think, if I remember correctly, it would address one of the challenges that I've gotten from constituents where a 311 request is submitted, the ticket gets closed, but that's just on the 311 side of things. There's still a referral that happens with DOT, with watershed, with public works, so forth and so on. Is the CRM the update to the CRM going to provide greater transparency on that, or if you just talk through what that means?
Yeah, it will. So we are looking at integrating systems into the new CRM. Right now, our agents are having to pivot to different systems because the systems do not talk to each other. So once the new CRM is launched, the goal is to integrate, which will solve that problem of the feedback loop not closing properly. So yes. Also, it will enhance a little bit. Those phase 1 features will also be integrated into the mobile app, to the CRM as well, which will be very helpful in closing that feedback loop. And also this automation from beginning to end to help with that average handle time for our agents. So I think what you will see in the new CRM is something that is definitely more robust, that will also eventually be an enterprise-wide solution, so we can use it for just different things, and also to ensure that the CRM is scalable for what we need here in the city of Atlanta.
Thank you. And the delivery is expected at FY24, but is that like a year from now, like next summer, next fall?
So it's really dependent on when the vendor is selected. So our goal is to finish the RFP process within 90 days. And then from there, once a vendor is selected, we will start those immediate conversations. But the goal from what we've seen or hearing is about 9 to 12 months. So we hope to have the RFP process completed if this is August, before, the holidays, of course. And then if we start in November, you're talking about maybe early spring, when we're able to launch. Even if it's in phases, but our goal is to definitely launch it as soon as possible.
And the reason why I ask is just kind of pointing to the question I asked before, the frustrations I get from constituents are largely centered around the lack of understanding of the full process. I have to end up contextualizing, like, hey, this is what's actually going on. Let me reach to those specific departments and see where we're at on their databases and their queues. But I wonder, too, if that might be impacting some of your survey data as well. And really what I'm getting at is I see all these phenomenal responses in the survey data, but what I get from constituents is 301 is not working here, it's not effective here. There's like the challenges that they are experiencing because a pothole hadn't been filled yet. They blame 311 because that's the interface that they're dealing with. But then I see the glowing reviews in the survey there. So I'm just curious about the timing of the surveys. Is that there are surveys only getting sent out once the ticket is created, or is it when the ticket is complete? I'm just curious if you could tell me.
After each call, they have the opportunity to opt in to take a survey. We also provide a survey at community outreach events. Anytime on the portal, you can submit a survey as well. And we get it, every day will not be bright and sunny, right? So we do understand that we will get complaints, but I do feel for the most part, we get a lot of positives as well, right? And I know sometimes that the negative outweighs, because that's what you're hearing the most. But I can assure you that the surveys are always provided after every call. Some do opt out. They don't want to do it, right? Yeah. And we also have it for our social media team. After every case is handled, they provide that survey as well. So it is definitely asked of the customer every single day.
And that makes sense. I just wanted clarity. Like, it sounds like the surveys go out on the intake side of things. Mm-hmm. I was curious if there would be an opportunity to do an additional survey once the ticket is closed, because that way I think you'll see probably a different perspective of that person's experience with 311, and I think that will be helpful in your navigation of once we get to the next generation of the app, next generation of the CRM, so forth and so on. The front end is wonderful, but I would probably measure at other points in that relationship.
Yeah, good point. So we'll make sure that's added as we continue to enhance our technology. Thank you.
And then my final question, with Notify ATL, when there's a blast that goes out, what's the typical cost? I know text messages cost money, and with the number of users that you have for Notify ATL, I'm curious what that typically costs the city, and then separately, if that is a hindrance or a limitation for our ability to further leverage Notify ATL to notify community members about something happening.
Yeah, so we have an annual cost, and that cost is broken up by departments that use it the most. So it's really not a per message cost, but if I recall, it's about maybe five or six departments that split that cost up.
Okay.
And so I think overall it's very cost efficient.
So it comes out of that department's communications budget whenever we...
Yeah, or whatever budget they've identified, yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And the reason why I asked that question is I know we've done a lot of blasts around trash pickup and those sorts of things, but just thinking of a specific constituent issue that I ran into in the West End, I've already worked with, the Watershed Commissioner Browning on, what the communication protocol typically is, but I wonder if, when I get alerts about water main breaks, for instance, if Notify ATL could potentially be a tool for that, but I don't know if there's a cost limitation attached to that, for that to be, because to me, if folks are paying a water bill, we have their address, we have their phone number, we have all this extraneous information, let's leverage that to push information more directly to users instead of waiting for a certain email to go out, waiting for my office to notify the neighborhood association or NPU, so forth and so on.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if Notify ATL could be a tool for that, but I didn't know if there was a cost associated that would make that not as successful. So that was more of a philosophical question, but just wanted to get your perspective.
Yes, and Watershed has their own account as well, so they have that ability to send those out via Notify ATL. And they do have a budgeted account for it, so they can definitely send it out through Notify ATL.
We just need to talk with the different departments on how they could potentially better leverage that. Okay.
But Notify ATL, the customer has to opt in.
Understood.
So that could be a barrier, if you want to say. But we are looking at a new, improved system, so we hope to have that procured fairly soon.
Okay. Thank you so much. You're my time.
You're welcome.
Princeton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your presentation, Commissioner Good. I will say I have to commend the work and the responsiveness, especially of your social media team. I have a love-hate relationship with Twitter, but I constantly get tagged in the ATL 301 request, and I see the responsiveness. So kudos to your social media team for being on top of the requests that come in through social media. One thing I am seeing is a lot of cases seem to be prematurely being closed. And I'm getting a lot of complaints and feedback from constituents about that. Can you give any background or feedback as opposed to why some cases are being closed early?
It could be a number of things. But when we get those, we escalate them to the department. Some departments do have measures in place where they're holding the field accountable. They go out there, don't add a note or don't fulfill the request. And also, we hold our teams accountable as well. So mostly it's happening because the systems are not integrated. But I can say with the consistent feedback we're giving departments, they have heard us and trying to find ways to close that until we get a better CRM in place.
Okay. And then speaking of the CRM, I know that it's looking like 2024 is when you should have the new system up. I do remember some funding coming through to help with some things in the interim. Can you explain kind of what is being done to kind of help in the interim with some of the technology, the difficulties that you all are having right now?
Well, you talk about our current technology?
Correct.
Mm-hmm. So currently with the CRM, it's just not conducive to a call center environment. And so that's why we're trying to move away from it, and our agents just find it a little bit more difficult to maneuver. Also, with the integration that we need, that didn't happen initially, that has been difficult because you all are seeing and feeling it as well. For example, our mobile app wasn't integrated, closing that feedback loop, or premature closure, right? So those are the major issues that we're seeing. And then on the self-service options, we understand that that's important to help drive down our call time, which is why the volume is so high, because there's no other way. So even with our IVR, you don't have the ability to say, hey, I want to get an update on my service request. You have to wait. Or you don't have the ability to submit another request on the IVR. So those are changes that we're going to implement to just make the customers' lives much easier.
And I know you get requests, various different methods. What would you say is ATL 301's preferred method of getting requests?
So our preferred method, as it stands today, would be social media, but we understand that most people want to hear and talk to someone, so our call volume will always probably be, number one, but definitely email or social media right now until we're able to get our enhancements completed.
All right, thank you. I will yield back to our bearded chair. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Bakhtiari. Well played.
Hey, Commissioner.
Hello.
So also wanted to go over, a couple of questions also about employees in addition to some of the policies that are being discussed in the presentation. So I was curious as to how many 301 employees we currently had.
Total, we're at about 113, but in 311 itself, you're looking at 41 agents.
41 agents.
16 leads and 6 supervisors.
You said 16 leads?
Well, 16 leads because one just started last week, and then 6 supervisors.
Okay, and I'm sure you've gotten tired of answering this question, but are there empty positions we're also trying to fill right now?
We are. So we have the ability to fulfill 66 agents.
Okay.
So it will be continual until we get those filled. Now, when we launch our self-service options, that number may decrease or stay right at where we are whenever those deploy. But when we looked at the data recently, even if we have 58 agents, that would be helpful as well with the call volume.
Understood. So one of my questions though was about, are we currently seeing any attrition issues with any of the agents?
No, we're holding about between 1 to 3% right now. I think with we're incentivizing, motivating, doing more coaching and development, we've seen a huge decrease. And also with our new director starting, that has helped a lot as well.
Currently, what is pay for employees?
So if you come in as an agent, you start at $36,000. After you go through training, you will then get an increase, 10% increase, and you will start at $38,000.
How long does training typically last?
So typically it's 4 weeks. For this new hire training class, they're going to be taught on all skill sets, so it's going to take about 10 weeks to complete.
And I'm guessing this also includes the HMIS certification?
That's for a supportive services team. So
not the call agents.
Right. Not 311 call agents. So there's 2 separate teams. So the supportive services team has 5 agents that take those calls, and then 311 take departmental calls and general information.
And so in the 36,000 is for a full-time job?
For an agent.
And that's currently what the city has allocated for your department to pay folks?
Yes, but they will get an increase after training.
Yeah, I'm only concerned because obviously we know cost of living in Atlanta is skyrocketing, and I'm worried about, and these are not remote jobs, or are they?
They are.
They're remote, okay. That's probably something we need to put the 36,000. That's not a viable that's not good. So the other question I had was, do some of the, especially supportive services, is there access to mental health care that the city provides, or is that not currently something that we provide?
We provide, so if there's a mental health concern, we just refer PAD, and then they will handle it.
Oh, I'm talking about for the employees, because of some of the feedback I've heard from some of the folks working in supportive services, and just from getting yelled at by for example, I love my district. They're very vocal. And so my concern is that after having been on those calls all day, that folks may not have access to, like, you know, it becomes, yeah.
Yeah, they do. So, you know, EAP, we always state to them, you know, please reach out to EAP. We also can mandate it if necessary. And also, EAP has came in to speak to our team as well, and they come anytime we ask them to come. The city's EAP program.
Okay. Okay. And I was also wondering, something I had seen and hearing from folks was an attendance policy update that was supposed to happen. Has that occurred?
So it's now with DHR, they're reviewing the policy, and so we hope to get that back very soon. So right now what we're doing is we have a moratorium on our current policy, which I felt was too stringent. And we're following the municipal code and getting advice from DHR until our policy is reviewed, vetted, and approved.
So there's a current moratorium. So when would we expect to, has DHR given an update on when we would expect the new policy to come out?
Not at this time.
Okay. It's coming. Ms. Pagnotta, you want to stay on top of that for me? Appreciate that. And then the other, moving more towards the operational side of everything, I was curious. I know that because of the supportive services, we have HMIS certified folks, which is awesome. For those who may not know, that means that those agents are able to do referrals for people that are homeless or experiencing mental health issues, which is incredible. But I'm guessing they're not 24/7, correct?
No, supportive services is 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Same as the PAD hours. And I'm curious as to, because last I heard, we were also trying to take some lower lying offenses, like, for example, public indecency, and shift that over to 311 to help with having a more nuanced approach to how police. So what would does that go to supportive services, or does that go to regular call agents?
It goes to supportive services.
So what would 311 need for us? Because, I mean, the pay for regular agents needs to be much higher. So my question is for supportive agents who are also who are going to be taking on this additional responsibility. Have there been a proposed increase for their pay? And also, how do we get you all to 24/7? Because obviously, if it's going to be happening in those off hours, that's going to be redirected right back to our officers. So what are the steps that we would need to take there?
So our staff got a 10% increase in the spring of this year, but we're always looking at ways to improve salaries, right? So anything you could do there, we would be very grateful for. Also, as we're going through the technology piece enhancing, we would need your support when we bring legislation to you all for approval. And for 24 hours, those discussions will continually be had with administration. And so as soon as we have the skill sets in place fully across the board in 311, and as well as some other measures that we're reviewing, I think then it would be a good deal to go 24 hours. But right now, we're just not in that place, but we do hope to get there fairly soon.
Is there anything that what can council do to assist with that?
Well, nothing at this time, but I would definitely keep you posted there. But nothing at this time. We're just trying to make sure our workforce is skilled effectively, because I don't know if you remember from my previous report, we were doing specialized queues, but after review of that, it didn't work. So now we have to go back and retrain, and those that are coming in, make sure they're skilled to take all calls. So we have to skill up our staff, and then we have to get to a comfortable place with technology and with where we are with FTEs.
Understood. And if there is anything, well, I actually wanted to ask, so the current support staff right now, do they have direct access to 911 operators? Because I'm sure the shift of taking over for indecent exposure, which typically has to do with mental health, typically be related back to that. Are they able to train with 911 operators as of right now?
And so we, a few things. We do work closely with Ebony Walton and team, and so we do trainings with them. We have the ability to transfer calls back and forth if needed, but we do work very closely. One of my directors have that working relationship with them, and also we do share in, I think it's bi-weekly meetings, some of the challenges that we have. So it's E911, PAD, myself, in the mayor's office. And so, but we do have a very close working relationship.
Okay. Well, those are my questions for now. So, enough with you. Thank you, but I'm glad to hear that you're training with Ms. Walton, because I don't think you could be in better hands.
Yes. We love Ms. Walton.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Bakhtiari. Councilmember Bond.
That'll be council member 2.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'll be quick. How do you all interface with the Office of Constituent Services?
So we talk often. I mean, there are times where we actually take calls for them as needed. So we have some knowledge articles that our agent handles calls for. If Mr. Bailey or team reaches out to us, we stand readily available. So we do check in with them quite often to see if there's anything we could do to assist them.
Okay, and secondly, in the way of salaries and compensation for your workers, has there been any consideration, given that the work is similar, not exact, to having some cross-training with the 911 operators, that perhaps some folks who work for 311 could be reserve 911 operators when they are short overnight or once they finish their shift?
No, we haven't had that type of discussion, but maybe something we can look down the road at. I know the trainings are very different, so we would have to look at what that training entails and the need. But E911, we do support them in like emergency times, like bad weather, public indecency now, and so we are just trying to find measures to assist them with the call volume. It has a race to non-emergency, but we would definitely take a look at that as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I just have one quick question, and it may be more for the administration than for you. On page 12, where you list out the top 5 cases in each, I think this is one of the most valuable data points that your effort can provide to the city in terms of analytics. I'm curious to know how that is then fed back up to the various departments, so that then they can adjust whatever workflows they need to in order to reduce the numbers or staff up to be able to anticipate servicing the numbers. Can you talk through that, or is that something the administration needs to?
No, we actually share weekly, monthly data with the departments, and we also discuss this in our monthly meetings with them as well.
Okay. All right, and then the operational decisions then flow from there. Have y'all done anything where you kind of track if there are significant shifts? I mean, I know this is an aggregated data point over the last 7 months, but month to month, if you see shifts, or year to year, if you see shifts, to let them know, hey, the adjustments y'all are making are working or they're not working.
Yeah, so we have identified some trends, and we do share that with the department. And the department also shares their trends with us as well. So we're pretty much in alignment in knowing some things are seasonal, right? And then other times it's just out of our hands. But I think for the most part, we are able to identify that in the data.
And my last question is there any leakage in the system in terms of, council members are guilty of this. We get a constituent reach out to us, and then we'll call the department directly to get something done. And there may or may not be a 311 record of that. Is there a way that information is also captured into the analytics somehow?
Yeah, so an example of that could be escalations, right? So we may get something from one of you, and even if it comes directly to me, I ensure that it's in the system.
Right, you do,
Yeah.
but if 311 is kind of completely out of the loop because we've bypassed it,
Yeah, that may not happen, right? So I do ask if that does, if you all can just share with us, that may be helpful.
okay, all right. Yeah, again, I just think this is all valuable information that helps management and operational decisions as well, but I can't wait for the phone app to be ready. I think that's going to be amazing that folks can be at a spot, maybe it's even GPS links, and they can take pictures, because I think that simple action is going to be so valuable to deploying the appropriate teams to address the problem. So
I agree.
couldn't be soon enough, but I'm glad it's on the horizon.
Thank you.
Other questions for Commissioner Good? No. Okay. I can't get you off of the currently speaking screen, so I guess you can talk for the rest of the meeting. All right, thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you
I appreciate
all.
it.
You're welcome.
And before we go into the legislative items, Ms. Pagnotta, I did get a communication from Commissioner Browning, who is following. She can't be here today, but is following. Her Deputy Commissioner of Finance, Jonathan Williams, I believe, is here. So I would ask if you could just connect with Ms. Pagnotta, and then in terms of follow-up, particularly about Friday's meeting, that would be great. I just want to acknowledge that we had promised that we would make sure we got connected. Okay, I believe that concludes our presentations and allows us to get into our meeting, our legislative items. Can y'all check and see if there's something I'm doing wrong with getting, not allowing Ms. Bakhtiari to speak anymore? We've got 5 items under ordinances for first reading, so if we can get those sounded, we will accept those in and then address them during the next cycle, please.
Mr. Chair, we're having some difficulty with the system.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Chair, the first item we have is 22-1647. This is an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee for a period of 5 years from the effective date of this ordinance to enter into lease agreements for the rental of office space at the John C. Burdine, Dunbar, and Georgia Hill neighborhood centers for a term of 3 years each, with various public and private agencies that provide valuable services to the surrounding communities, affirming previously established rental rate of $11 per square foot for such leases, affirming the previously established meeting room rental rates for the centers, affirming previously established $25 late fee for such leases, affirming all leasing and rental revenues to be deposited into the trust fund accounts on the Department of Enterprise Asset Management's purview for each center, affirming the expenditures of such trust funds for renovation and remodeling of the centers, waiving Section 2-1547 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, requiring a request for lease proposals and annual revision of the rental rates, and for other purposes. Item number 2 is 22-1648, an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee to ratify services rendered in connection with Agreement FC 8147B, citywide plumbing maintenance and services with the Plumbing Shop, Inc., doing business as Quick Action Plumbing, to authorize the mayor or his designee to enter into Amendment number 12 under the agreement to extend the term of the agreement on a month-to-month basis for a period of up to 12 months, retroactively effective June 27, 2022 through June 26, 2023, to increase billable rates for master plumbers from $44 per hour to $209.63. Journeyman plumbers from $37.50 to $180, plumbers helpers from $22.50 to $63.38, and to add an emergency after-hour rate of $228.81 on behalf of the Departments of Enterprise Asset Management, Atlanta Police Department, Aviation, Corrections, Parks and Recreation, Public Works, Atlanta Transportation, Atlanta Fire and Rescue, and Watershed Management in an amount not to exceed $1,352,000. All contracted work to be charged to and paid from funding numbers listed herein and for other purposes. Item number 3 is 22-1649. This is an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor as designee on behalf of the Department of Finance to enter into Amendment number 2 for CPS 12-1210 175 ATL Cloud Implementation and Post-Implementation Support Services with Deloitte Consulting LLP to extend the term for one final additional year effective September 7, 2022 through September 6, 2023, with 2 one-year renewal options at the city's discretion to allow time for preparation of a solicitation for the ATL Cloud Support Services and to complete the closeout of the agreement in coordination with new consultant as may be necessary in an amount not to exceed $5,986,500, all contracted work to be charged to and paid from accounts listed herein. Item number 4 is 220-1650, an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor as designee on behalf of the Department of City Planning and the Department of Transportation to enter into contract renewal option number 4 for FC 9878 construction project management software system with eBuilder Inc. in an amount not to exceed $229,007.81 to extend the term of the agreement through May 30th, 2023 to be retroactive to June 3rd, 2022, to authorize reinstatement of the contract as of June 3rd, 2022, to ratify all actions taken by the city since June 3rd, 2022, and for other purposes. Item number 5 is 220-1651. This is an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to amend the fiscal year 2023 capital finance budget and the fiscal year 2023 Office of Buildings General Fund operating budget by transferring an amount not to exceed $1,350,000.00 from the capital finance fund to the fiscal year 2023 Office of Buildings General Fund to fund building inspection and permitting services and for other purposes.
Thank you, Ms. Lindo. With that, we will accept those in and dispense with them during the next cycle. It takes us to our regular agenda, ordinances for second read. First item is 22-01589, an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to enter into lease agreements with various tenants for the lease of commercial space within the property located at 1518 Monroe Drive, Atlanta, Georgia, Fulton County tax parcel ID number listed, and 1536, 1540, and 1542 Monroe Drive, Atlanta, Georgia, and 1529 and 1531 Piedmont Avenue, Atlanta, Georgia, collectively Fulton County parcel ID number listed, collectively the property, for a term not to exceed 5 years for the continued operation of the property as a retail development, waiving Section 2-1547, Article 10, Procurement and Real Estate Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, and for other purposes. Hi. You're not Mr. Santillo, but can you speak to the... Oh, wait. Colleagues, we actually need to amend this first. Let's do that amendment that will attach the draft lease agreement. I'll make the motion to amend. Can I get a second, please? Seconded by Shook. If there's no discussion on that amendment, let's open that vote, please. Yeah, we do need to talk about it.
One moment, Mr. Chair.
We have him go ahead and discuss it while that comes up.
The vote is open.
Oh, perfect.
The vote is closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. The paper is amended and before us. If you want to speak to the paper, please.
Thank you, Chairman Wand. My name is Mike Jurgen. I'm the interim director of real estate for Department of Enterprise Asset Management. The legislation is before you today is to allow us to continue doing retail leases at a shopping center. In 2018, the City Council and the Mayor's Office agreed to purchase a shopping center called Clear Creek Shopping Center for the purpose of expanding Piedmont Park and for connectivity to trails and the Beltline and other activities. At that time, it was projected that over the next 4-year period following that through the efforts of the Conservancy and the Piedmont Conservancy and the Atlanta Botanical Group, that they would accrue donations and sources of funding of about $80 million to carry out the plan that they had for this project. Of course, here we are 4 years later. The original legislation said that the leases would run until they ended, but it didn't provide for any continued renewal of leases. So at this point, we still have carrying costs and overhead and expenses of maintaining and running a shopping center until the funding can be found for the moving forward of the project that would expand this large tract of land, along with some other acquisitions that they want to make it even bigger. So this particular legislation says for not to exceed 5 years, we can continue to enter into leases for the various type of retail, office, restaurants, and things that we are trying to use in order to generate rental revenue as a holding pattern while we wait for the Parks Department and other philanthropist type groups to come up with the funding to see this vision that has been presented and passed in the past.
All right. All right, there's a motion from Mr. Bond to approve. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Winston. I do have some questions on this, and rather than gum up the committee time, I'm going to abstain on this so that it's not on the consent agenda. But specifically, I'm in support of the concept because I do know that as time goes on, time is money, and we could be generating income and maintaining the property. So I'm supportive of that. I'm a little concerned about the time frame that has been listed here, about 5 years, because my conversations with the botanical gardens as well as the conservancy seems to suggest that their time frame is a little faster than that. And if we do lock into 5 years, we're going to mess everybody's time up. So we got to talk about that a little bit. And I'd also like to see if the financial operations and performance over the last couple of years since the deal was announced. So at least that'll give us a notion of what the deficit may or may not be at this point and what we're projecting going forward. Councilmember Shook.
Okay, so I remember when this first came through here, it was not without controversy. And I don't know if you were here or not then.
That was a previous director.
Okay.
Over the
yeah, so it was, is that not a hot part of town?
In reference to the leasing or?
Yeah, in reference to anything.
Yes, it's a very...
What's the problem?
So, Councilmember Shook, this is not on them. This is, quite frankly, like you said, the original leases were only intended to run out because the redevelopment and the demolition was supposed to have already happened but the capital campaign, because of COVID, did not start when it was supposed to. So everything has been shifted. As he said, the leases have run out, and we just don't have a way to kind of bridge the time now until when the project can actually go. That's why. It's nothing on them. It's nothing on the market. It was just no one anticipated the phenomenon that we went through over the last 2 years.
It's difficult to lease retail property on short-term leasing, especially less than 5 years, because a lot of them are installing equipment and building restaurants and things, and they can't recover or be able to afford. Also, they know that the entire project, except for one building, is destined to be torn down. So from a chilling effect, that probably has contributed to the resistance to anyone wanting to be there other than current existing customers that would like to stay longer. The leases that we inherited were not city leases. They were from the original developer. And the legislation had the sundown clause saying that as these expire, you're not to do any more leasing because we're going to tear it all down. But we weren't the ones doing the funding for the $80 million. That was to come based on the legislation from outside sources. So that's how you've gotten to, notwithstanding the pandemic and the firms that have gone under during that time.
Okay. So pandemic, inflation, recession, this is one of the hottest parts of town, eh?
Right.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Other questions for the department administration on this? There's a motion from Bond, second by Winston, to approve. Let's go ahead and open that vote.
The vote is open.
Six yeas, 1 nay, 1 abstention. The motion carries. This item will move forward. But yeah, if someone could, let's set up a time where we can talk before Monday. And to the extent that y'all can compile that information for me, that'd be great.
Yes, sure.
Thank you. All right, next item is number 7, 22-01590, an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to exercise renewal option number 1 with Civic Plus LLC on behalf of the Municipal Code Corporation for for special procurement FC 10490 for the publishing, editing, and online hosting for codification of legislation based on behalf of the Atlanta City Council and Administration, that the renewal will be effective July 30, 2022 for a term of 5 years beginning July 30, 2022 and ending July 30, 2027 in an amount not to exceed $99,000.00 for 5 years, to ratify services rendered in connection with the agreement beginning July 30th, 2022 through the date of executing the renewal in accordance with Section 2-1191.1 of Article 10, Procurement and Real Estate Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from account numbers listed herein and for other purposes. Mr. Clerk.
Forrest Webb III, City of Atlanta Municipal Clerk. The legislation that you have before you, as noted in the caption, is to renew the codification services that we currently have with MuniCode. MuniCode was subsequently acquired by Civic Plus in August of 2021, and we've been assured that the current services that we have via electronic codification as well as code supplements will be maintained, as well as we will have additional services that we'll have at our disposal. This is a 5-year renewal at not to exceed $99,000.
Thank you. Questions for Mr. Clerk? Is this from you previously or you? Okay. Mr. Clerk, Mr. Shipp.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm going to support this because we need to do what we need to do to be, according to Hoyle. I will just note that I think if the city enforced everything that's in the code, it might be this thick. So that's fine. Let's add some more fat to it. So do we have a motion?
We do not.
Well, I'll move approval.
All right. Motion by Shook, second by Dozier. There's no further discussion. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. Vote is closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. This item is approved. Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you.
All right, next item, 22-01591, an ordinance by Councilmember Matt Westmoreland. Colleagues, there is a substitute for this that adds the amount, and I'll read that caption in and I'll make a motion to bring forward the substitute, seconded by Bakhtiari. A substitute by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute any documents necessary and appropriate to implement an agreement with the Atlanta Independent School System, pursuant to which APS shall pay the City of Atlanta an amount not to exceed $2,000,000 in order to reimburse the city for and to resolve any outstanding claims of the city for the principal and interest paid by the city to service the debt created on behalf of APS pursuant to the school bond constitutional amendment, amending the 2023 general fund budget by adding to anticipations and appropriations in the amount of $2,000,000 and for other purposes. Ms. Hickson.
Yes, this matter arises out of litigation that we filed against the school system back in 2019, seeking recovery of funds that should have been deposited into a sinking fund for bonds that the city issued on behalf of the school board. Prior to the separation of the school board from the City of Atlanta, there was state legislation that allowed the city to issue $8 million in bonds on an annual basis without having to go through a referendum. Once the parties separated in '73, there was still an arrangement where the city would issue the bonds, and the agreement was for the public school system to the extent it needed to increase the millage rate such that they could pay back the debt service. In 2014, 2016, the city engaged in some refunding efforts as well as efforts to pay back those or to defease those bonds. In doing so, it did not appropriately communicate to the school system that there still was an obligation to pay those bonds, and so we ended up in a dispute as it relates to the amount that they owed in debt service. The lawsuit was filed. We've reached an agreement in principle and are seeking your approval of that agreement, and that agreement would have them paying the city $2 million.
Questions for the city attorney? I do. So you said the bonds were defeased, so the obligation is now completed. It's just this outstanding matter. So
Exactly.
there is no financial commitment or anything due associated with the bonds going forward.
Not going forward. That has been able to be cleared up.
Okay. And for finance, the funds would then be allocated towards non-departmental for this year. Is that correct?
That's correct. We're placing the funds there for economic development.
Identify yourself while you're...
Tina Wilson, Deputy CFO.
All right. Any questions for finance or the city attorney? Motion from Shook to approve, seconded by Bond. If there's
Mr. Chair, we do have a first and second and substitute, yes.
Oh, yeah. All right. So I read in the substitute, but I'll make the motion to bring forward the substitute. It was seconded by Bakhtiari. So let's vote on the motion to bring forward the substitute.
The vote is open.
All right.
The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays. Motion carries. The substitute is before us, and I believe Mr. Bond made the motion to approve on substitute, seconded by Bakhtiari. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. This item is approved. Thank you, Madam City Attorney.
Thank you.
All right, colleagues, without objection, I'm going to take 9, 10, 11, and 15 together. The first one is 22-01592, an ordinance by Councilmember Matt Westmoreland authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $2,500.00 from the Post 2 at-large carry-forward account to the Grant Park Conservancy to support the restoration and maintenance of the historic Grant Park and for other purposes. Item number 10, 22-01593, an ordinance by Councilmember Matt Westmoreland authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $5,000.00 from the Post 2 at-large carry-forward account to Trinity Community Ministries and for other purposes. Item 11 is 22-01594, an ordinance by Councilmember Matt Westmoreland authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $25,000.00 from the Post 2 at-large carry-forward account to the Atlanta Fire Rescue Foundation and for other purposes. And item 15, which is 22-01611, an ordinance by Councilmember Howard Shook authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $2,500.00 from the District 7 carry-forward account to Helping Empower Youth, also known as HAY, Inc., to support efforts to improve opportunities for youth and for other purposes. Any discussion on any of these? Is there a motion from Shook to approve, second by Bakhtiari, on all items in a block? If there's no discussion, let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. Vote is closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. Those items are approved. Okay, that takes us to item number 12. Colleagues, we do have a substitute for this, and I will read in the caption and make a motion to bring it forward. 22-01596, an ordinance by Councilmember Jason Winston, as substituted by Finance Executive Committee, authorizing the City of Atlanta to donate American Rescue Plan Act funds to the United Way of Greater Atlanta, pursuant to Section 6-306 of the City of Atlanta's Charter, in an amount not to exceed $55,000.00 to act as fiscal agent for the administrative costs associated with the SET South Atlanta Production Assistant Training Program and for other purposes. Can I get a second for my motion to bring the substitute forward, please? Seconded by Bakhtiari. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. The substitute is before us. So, Ms. Williams, did you want to speak to this? We just brought the substitute forward before us, but if you wanted to.
No, not necessary. Thank you, council members.
Any questions for Ms. Williams or the author?
You can't run away yet.
Is there? You asking a question? All right. Colleagues, they've just handed out some materials that describe the program. Mr. Winston, would you like to make a motion?
Sure. Motion to approve.
Motion to approve on substitute, seconded by Dozier. The Jasons have it. Let's open that vote, please.
Caucus.
The vote is open.
Oh, no, it didn't even take. Still have to vote. They didn't put it in.
The vote is closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. The item is approved on substitute.
I got completely opted out.
It's like it was his paper and he got completely denied. All right, 22-01601, an ordinance by Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari to extend the closing date under the purchase and sale agreement between Heritage Capital Partners, LLC, and the City of Atlanta for certain property located in Land Lot 176, District 5, Atlanta, DeKalb County, Georgia, commonly known as 770 Shadow Ridge Drive, Atlanta, DeKalb County tax parcel ID number listed through September 30, 2022, in accordance with Section 2-1541 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances and for other purposes. Mr. Thompson, if you could just tell us about the paper, please.
Okay, not a problem. Good afternoon, Chairman Warren and members of council. This is Henry Thompson with the Department of Parks and Recreation. This ordinance extends the closing date under the purchase and sale agreement for 3.19 acres of property located at 77 Shadow Ridge Drive for the purpose of creating a passive park in Council District 5. The city and the seller wish to extend the closing date until September 30th, 2022. To allow additional time for parties to satisfy closing conditions set forth in the agreement and specified in the related zoning legislation pertaining to the property and to successfully complete the transaction.
All right, questions for Mr. Thompson? All right, well, motion from Baum to approve, seconded by Bakhtiari. Mr. Shuck.
Yeah, and I'm going to vote for this, but what is a passive park?
A passive park? Passive park, I can get you details. I don't have all the details on the passive park, but a passive park is typically something that's going to be a little less stringent when it comes to maintenance.
Do you want me to speak a bit more to the history? You want me to speak a bit more to the history?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, so this was the Ormwood, we're calling the Ormwood Forest, and so this was the deal that was this was a highly sought-after piece of development. The neighborhood had been fighting for years to get it preserved, so my predecessor made a compromise, and a part of it's going to housing, the rest of it will be preserved as a park that will then be transferred over to the city upon the closure of this deal, and then transferred to Parks and Rec. So the area will be a preserved green space.
I'm all for that. I just don't know. I've never heard the phrase passive park. So, I mean, people are allowed in it? I mean, what does that mean?
People will still be allowed.
Like I said, it's more in terms of maintenance. Like you have some parks that have more trees and vegetation that doesn't require as much maintenance, so it may be more passive.
It's not going to be as a clean cut as a regular park. We're still going to maintain that green space as a natural green space, but with a trail and other things like that through it.
Okay.
It's a zen.
We should have to throw in some words to throw you off there, Councilmember.
Thank you. No, I'm in.
All right, there was a motion, I believe, from Bond, second by Bakhtiari. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote's closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. This item is passively approved.
Thank you, council members. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to take items 14 and 16 together. Both have substitutes, so I'll read in the substitutes and then make a motion to bring them forward. The first one is 22-01610, an ordinance by Councilmember Howard Shook, as substituted by Finance Executive Committee to authorize the mayor or his designee to authorize the chief financial officer to execute a master lease agreement with J.P. Morgan Chase Bank N.A. for the acquisition of up to 2,866 APX 6000 and APX 6500 series portable radios on behalf of the Atlanta Police, Corrections, and Fire Departments in an amount not to exceed $13,959,034.29 and for other purposes. And then 22-01620, it's an ordinance by Councilmember Dustin Hillis as substituted by Finance Executive Committee, authorizing the mayor or his designee to authorize the chief financial officer to execute a master lease agreement with J.P. Morgan Chase Bank N.A. for the acquisition of 3 Spartan 1,500 gallons per minute custom reserve fire pumpers on behalf of the Atlanta Fire Rescue Department in an amount not to exceed $2,154,915.00 and for other purposes. Made the motion to bring forward the substitutes. Can I get a second, please? Seconded by Shook. Let's open the vote to bring them forward.
The vote is open. The vote's closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. The substitutes are before us. Mr. Knight, if you could come and walk us through both papers, please.
Good afternoon, Chairman Wan, members of the council, Courtney Knight, City Treasurer. We've received both of these requests from our public safety partners in Treasury, and with respect to the Motorola equipment, Motorola offered financing in connection with the radios. I set about trying to find out if that was the best deal for us, and I actually found a third-party tax-exempt leasing source that was a better rate. So we solicited bids from financial institutions and awarded the lowest rate to J.P. Morgan Chase Bank. Similarly, with respect to Atlanta Fire Rescue, we solicited bids from financial institutions for the leasing of those fire trucks over a 7-year period. Sent out solicitations, got bids back, and coincidentally, J.P. Morgan Chase won that bid as well. I believe Fire Rescue is here, and AIM, if there are any other questions with regard to the procurement.
The question's for Mr. Knight. One quick question. Mr. Winston.
Yes, just curious if these 3 Spartan fire pumpers are designated to any specific fire stations.
Deputy Chief Allen Burden, no, sir. They're just going to the reserve fleet.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Other questions? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve both on substitute. Can I get a second? Second. Seconded by Winston. Let's open the vote, please.
The vote is open. Vote's closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. Items are approved on substitute. Mr. Knight, I just want to commend you. You're always looking for great ways to save us money on financing, so I appreciate that. All right, next item is taking care of 15. So number 17, 22-01621, an ordinance by Councilmember Dustin Hillis authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to amend the fiscal year 2023 general fund budget in the amount of $12 million.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt. There is a substitute that changes the amount in the caption.
Okay, so, all right, let's do this again. Take 2. An ordinance by Councilmember Dustin Hillis as amended by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to amend the fiscal year 2023 general fund budget in the amount of $12,300,000.00 by transferring funds from the uncommitted fund balance to support the acquisition of 75 acres of land from the Conservation Fund to increase parks, green space, recreation, and watershed land in the city and for other purposes. I'll move to bring the substitute forward. Can I get a second, please? Second. Seconded by Bakhtiari. Let's open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote's closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays, the motion carries. The substitute is before us. Deputy COO Burks, please tell us about the paper.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the Finance Executive Committee. LaShondra Burks, Deputy Chief Operating Officer. The paper before you, as has mentioned in the caption, it will allow us to transfer $12.3 million in order to close out the 75 acres of land, the purchase close out for Chattahoochee Brick. We have talked about Chattahoochee Brick for quite some time. The Conservation Fund stepped in and supported us in doing their closing, and now it is time for us to close from them. This funding is in the infrastructure bond that was passed by voters in May. Back in April, you all allowed us to move forward with the legislation in order to allocate the watershed amount of the funding. This comes back with the amount that's in the infrastructure bond because we need to move forward with the closing, and then after we issue the bonds for infrastructure, this funding will be replaced.
Questions for Deputy COO? I do have a quick question for Finance. So will there be a corresponding piece of legislation once the bond proceeds come in to then replenish the surplus?
This legislation should allow for that to happen.
Automatically.
Right.
Other questions? All right, let's, do we have a motion on that? No? All right, I'll make a motion to approve on substitute, seconded by Dozier. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote's closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. This item is approved on substitute.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next item is item number 18, 22-01627, an ordinance by Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to amend the 2015 Municipal Facilities Bond to transfer $153,000.00 from the District 11 Renew Atlanta Bond account to assist with road safety improvements in Adams Park and for other purposes. The author of the paper would like us to file this paper. I'll make that motion. Seconded by Shook. Let's open the motion. Open the vote to file, please.
The vote is open. Vote's closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. This paper will be filed. Next item is number 19. There is a substitute. I'll read in the caption and make the motion to bring it forward. It's 22-01634, ordinance by council members Michael Julian Bond and Andrea L. Boone, as substituted by Finance Executive Committee, authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $250.00 from the Post 1 at-large carry-forward account, authorizing a donation in an amount not to exceed $500.00 from the District 10 carry-forward account to the Historic Collier Heights Neighborhood Association to support ongoing neighborhood projects and for other purposes. Motion by Juan to bring forward the substitute, seconded by Shook. Let's open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote's closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. The paper is before us. I'll ask the author if he wants to make any comments about this or make the motion. All right, there's a motion from Bond to approve on substitute, seconded by Winston. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote's closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays. Motion carries. This item is approved on substitute. All right, takes us to item number 20, which is 22-01635, an ordinance by Councilmember Amir Faroki to amend Chapter 2, Article 3, Division 1, Section 2-190B, Chapter 2, Article 4, Section 2-196, Chapter 2, Article 4, Section 2-197, and Chapter 2, Article 4, Section 2-201 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances to establish the Mayor's Office of International and Immigrant Affairs, to authorize the Chief Financial Officer to create the appropriate department organizations and to anticipate and appropriate the necessary funding in connection with the creation of the Mayor's Office of International and Immigrant Affairs, to authorize the Chief Financial Officer and the Commissioner of the Department of Human Resources to transfer any positions currently assigned to any office or department operating under the executive branch to the Mayor's Office of International and Immigrant Affairs, as shall be necessary to facilitate the immediate commencement of the operation of the Mayor's Office of International and Immigrant Affairs and for other purposes. Deputy Director Goosemetten, are you? Oh, you're Deputy Director Pace.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the Finance Committee. Theo Pace, Deputy Chief of Staff, Office of the Mayor. Currently, the Office of International Affairs and the Office of Immigrant Affairs are separate offices under the Office of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. What this ordinance would do is consolidate those offices as a standalone office under the Office of the Mayor. It would combine the staffs of the two offices as well as the office expenses. The request is that if this item could be referred on condition while the Department of Finance works to, one, complete the org chart and provide the department org for this new office.
Anticipate that will be done by Monday?
Yes.
All right, I'll make the motion to approve on condition with that condition. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Winston. Mr. Shook.
So this will be a salary savings.
Yes, sir.
Mic drop. All right, if there's no further discussion, let's open the vote to approve. Yep.
The vote is open. Please vote. The vote is closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. The item is approved. Thank you, Deputy Director Pace. All right, that takes us to resolutions. The first one is 22-R4024, and we do have a substitute For that, I'll read in the caption and then make that motion. It's a resolution by Councilmember Byron D. Amos, as substituted by Finance Executive Committee, authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute special procurement agreement number listed, time clock replacement and licensing with Time Clock Plus, LLC, on behalf of the Department of Atlanta Information Management, pursuant to Section 2-1191.1 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, for a term of 3 years with 2 one-year renewal term options in an amount not to exceed $1,306,165.00. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account number listed herein, and for other purposes. Brittany Carter, right? If you'll come up and, well, let me make the motion to bring forward the substitute. Can I get a second? Seconded by Bakhtiari. Let's open that vote first.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. The substitute is before us. Ms. Carter, if you'll tell us about this paper.
Thank you. Good afternoon, council members. Brittany Carter, Chief Technology Officer with AIM. And this legislation supports the procurement of physical time clocks due to the implementation of the Oracle Time and Labor. This is because the current time clocks with Kronos are not compatible with Oracle. This module is going to replace Kronos in the long term. It's a multi-phase approach. This legislation includes a implementation, a one-for-one replacement of time clocks, the ongoing support for 3 years plus renewal options. And one thing I just want to add, I know we had Kronos here earlier this year, and it's coming back at the end of the month. That is because we're aligning to the agreement that ends in March, and that actually aligns with the current project. So the timeline for the implementation for the time clock module within the Oracle Time and Labor is February currently, and so we're trying to line those up so that we have the Kronos time clocks in place.
All right, so when are we thinking the actual switch from Kronos over to Oracle is going to take place?
It'll be a phased approach. So the first phase is due around September timeframe, assuming all goes well, and that is what we do call the pay by schedule. So those aren't the folks that are actually clocking in. The second phase is called the pay by punch, and that is currently targeted for February, assuming that we get all these time clocks in place and ready by November.
Other questions from Ms. Carter? Chuck.
Okay, so we're Kronos sucks, and now we're moving to the cloud. The all-knowing, all-perfect cloud. Okay. So, is there an IPRO report on this?
Yes,
there is.
Okay, so we had to hire the hired guns here to get us from there to here, right?
It did take a lot of manpower, yes, to get us from here to there.
Well, okay. I've been dealing with Kronos for a long time.
Are you saying you don't want to change?
No. So we need to change.
Start the clock, pun intended.
Start the clock.
Yeah.
Is this going to be better? Is
Start
this
the time.
perfect? Is this the best mousetrap? I don't know. We're going to find out. But I'm going to support it because what we have now is an absolute abject failure. And I will expect to see improvement. Thank you.
Other questions? All right, I'll make the motion to approve on substitute. Can I get a second, please? Second. Seconded by Bond. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. This item is approved on substitute. Next item is 22-R4031, a resolution by Councilmember Alex Wan authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to refund customers for overpayments to water and sewer accounts in an amount of blank. All funds to be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed and for other purposes. Motion is to hold. Can I get a second, please? Seconded by Bakhtiari. We'll bring this forward when they're actually amount. So let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. This item will be held. Item 22-R4032, a resolution by Councilmember Howard Shook authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute a special procurement agreement for SPS 122401, public awareness campaign with Jacobs Eye LLC on behalf of the Compliance Division of the Office of Inspector General for a term of 1 year with one year renewal option at the city's sole discretion in an amount not to exceed $120,000.00 for the initial term of the provision of branding and marketing services, with all contracted work to be charged to and paid from fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes. Colleagues, we do have an amendment that attaches the Department of Procurement designation memo. I'll make a motion to amend. Can I get a second, please? Seconded by Shook. If there's no discussion on that, let's open that motion to amend.
The vote is open. Vote's closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The amended paper is before us. Ms. Manigault.
Good afternoon. Shannon Manigault, Office of the Inspector General. This legislation would secure a marketing firm for a public awareness campaign for the still new City of Atlanta Office of the Inspector General. The campaign would be designed to increase awareness of the existence of the office and its function, with particular focus on its compliance division, the newest function to the city. We would also be looking to generate and facilitate inquiries and complaints, and overall, we would be looking to bolster public trust in city government by the existence of the office. We had secured funding for this with fiscal year 22, but after 3 phases of procurement, we're finally ready to move forward.
All right, questions? Mr. Shook.
Okay, so this is targeted for city employees?
No, so it's really targeted for members of the public, and the idea is to make sure that your average Atlanta citizen who is interfacing with city employees is aware of the office. In addition, it will also serve to educate the public employees as well, but it's mostly targeted towards members of the public.
All right, thank you for all you do.
Yeah, Mr. Winston, I have a question as well.
So we're going to spend roughly, we are going to spend $10,000 a month for the next year on this campaign. Does this include direct mail? Just pretty high.
The idea is that the marketing firm is going to come up with a particular strategy, and whether that involves direct mail, social media, in comparable campaigns in other cities. It involves things on buses and public transportation and other shelters. So the idea is to try to have a multi-pronged approach in order to capture as many kind of eyes on it as possible.
Okay, so comprehensive marketing plan that encompasses all different types of mediums.
Absolutely, including branding and other kind of things that are kind of foundational to city departments that we just don't have yet for the new office.
Okay, that justifies the number. Thank you.
And my question kind of follows on that in terms of just deliverables and metrics. How will we know at the end of 12 months that, yeah, this was money well invested? Will there be, how are y'all going to measure that?
That's one of the components for the firm, that they are supposed to come up with some of those measures. But when other cities around the country have enlisted the same kinds of services, there's always an uptick in the number of complaints that comes with that. So we expect a comparable figure here.
Other questions? All right, seeing none, do we have a motion? Yeah. No? All right, I'll make the motion to approve. Seconded by Shook, and this is to approve as amended.
The vote is open. Vote is closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. This item is approved as amended. Next item is number 24, 22-R4035, a resolution by Councilmember Andrea L. Boone authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the Georgia Vocational Rehabilitation Agency for the operation and management of Cafe 55, located at City Hall, and a smoothie snack bar located in the City of Atlanta Employee Wellness Center on behalf of the Department of Enterprise Asset Management and the Department of Human Resources and for other purposes. All right, is Mr. Santil here? Yep.
Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the committee. We are actually going to hold this particular.
All right, I'll make the motion to hold, seconded by Shook. If there's no discussion, let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. Vote is closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. This item will be held. Next item, 22-R4037, a resolution by council members Overstreet, Bond, Westmoreland, Waits, Winston, Baroque, Amos, Dozier, Bakhtiari, Wan, Hillis, Boone, and Lewis, authorizing the City of Atlanta to donate a total amount not to exceed $500,000.00 to Choose Atlanta 2024 pursuant to Section 6-306 of the City of Atlanta's Charter to support the significant economic impact and public safety investments that would result from Atlanta hosting the 2024 Democratic National Convention, authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into any necessary agreements to effectuate the donation, and to authorize the chief financial officer or his designee to make all payments from the accounts listed herein and for other purposes. Mr. English.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Courtney English, Senior Advisor to the Mayor. The paper before you is a resolution that authorizes a donation to an outside entity, a nonprofit organization called Choose Atlanta 2024. That entity is currently managing all of the functions related to our bid around the 2024 Democratic National Convention, which we look at as an extraordinary economic development opportunity. Our best estimates from previous cities have shown that the convention generates anywhere between $250 and $260 million for the host city, in addition to a $50 million contribution from the federal government to bolster our security apparatus that the city actually gets to keep and spend as it sees. And so this $500,000 donation coincides additional revenue from the Atlanta Fulton County Recreation Authority, Invest Atlanta, and a number of private entities to help further and advance the bid process. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Mr. English? There's a motion from Bond to approve. I'll second it. I do have want to clarify the source of funds for this amount.
Tina Wilson, Deputy CFO. The $500,000 will be funded out of non-departmental. As you just passed or approved the APS funding, we will use that source.
Thank you. Other questions for either Finance or Mr. English? Seeing none, let's go ahead and open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. This item is approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, and a special thanks to council membership.
You all have a good That was well played, well played. All right, so item 26, 22-R4040, a resolution by Councilmember Michael Julian Bond authorizing the City of Atlanta to accept a donation of food and food service donations for a ceremony to be hosted in recognition of India's celebration of 75 years of independence. Such donation shall be in a total value not to exceed blank and for other purposes. Mr. Bond, I don't know if you have the amounts or if we're going to hold this for another cycle until we have more details.
Just like to ask you to move forward with that recommendation so I can plug in the name of the nonprofit on Monday.
All right, so that's your motion to move forward with no recommendation.
Yes.
And the condition that you'll have the amount and the organization by Monday.
Yes, because their anniversary is actually this weekend.
Oh, okay. All right. All right, is there a second? Second. Seconded by Winston. Any discussion? Seeing none, let's open the vote, please.
Well, I have a question.
Yep.
Yeah, what India and Pakistan have celebrated checkered human rights histories. I'm just curious as to how this has come to us. I can go into great detail if that's necessary, but I'm just curious.
I was approached by citizens of both countries, of their native countries. First, citizens of India who said that their 75th anniversary would be coming up, and they wanted to have a celebration in the atrium of it. They, as has been my history, when I present a proclamation to a person or a group, I'll often sponsor some libation. And so this they said that they would rather have a native son or daughter of India to prepare the food. And so I digressed to allow it. And so we will be presenting a proclamation on behalf of India's anniversary, not at this meeting, but at the next meeting. And so by that time, like I said, by Monday, I will have the nonprofit of whom will make the donation so that they can secure the libations for the reception that will take place prior to the proclamation presentation.
And is there a companion piece for Pakistan?
No, I will be with the members of the Pakistan community on Friday at an event, and I will be presenting a proclamation to them at that event.
Okay. Because if we get the both of them in the atrium, we might need to call out the SWAT team. And Pakistan harbored Osama bin Laden. Hey? So maybe you don't have an issue with that. I sure as hell do.
Well, Mr. Short.
And you can tell them that.
Well, Mr. Short, I'm sure they'll probably hear if they monitor these meetings.
Good.
But there are many citizens that Pakistan and India, now American citizens, we have a multiracial, multicultural city, and the philosophy, the marketing, the mythology of Atlanta is by extension based upon the teachings of Mahatma Gandhi, who had a hand in the creation of both of these countries. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Based his civil disobedience squarely upon the teachings of Mahatma Gandhi. So in theory, the pebble that was thrown into the world's pond that created the ripples that created these two countries out of the civil disobedience that made the most powerful empire since the Roman Empire release these countries from its colonialism. Those ripples made their way to Atlanta via Dr. Martin Luther King's movement and others. And so in his hometown, that markets itself, prides itself as the city too busy to hate, the city of the civil rights movement, the city of brotherly love. I received a request, and I'm extending that love, or attempting to these citizens who have made Atlanta their home, that feel like their legacy should be celebrated here at the City Hall in the city where they live and do business and contribute.
That's fine. So those two countries have fought each other in 3 wars, and you know that. You're a historian. Pakistan harbored Osama bin Laden, which you have not refuted. So those are my comments for today.
Thank you, Mr. Shook. There is a motion to move this forward with no recommendation, with the understanding that we'll get all the details in a substitute on Monday. Any further discussion on that motion? All right, seeing none, let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote's closed.
5 yeas, 1 nay. The motion carries. This item will move forward with no recommendation. All right, I'm going to take the next 2 items together without objection. 22-R4041, a resolution by council members Bond, Westmoreland, Waits, Winston, Dozier, Bakhtiari, Hillis, Boone, and Overstreet, requesting that the Department of Enterprise Asset Management add the national flag of India to the current display of flags located in the City Hall atrium in recognition of India's 75 years of independence, celebrated August 15, 2022, and for other purposes. And 22-R4042, resolution by council members Bond, Westmoreland, Waits, Winston, Dozier, Bakhtiari, Hillis, and Boone, requesting the Department of Enterprise Asset Management add the national flag of Pakistan to the current display of flags located in the City Hall atrium in recognition of 75 years of independence, celebrated August 14, 2022, and for other purposes. All right, Mr. Bond, I believe we've all received a correspondence from the Deputy Director, Mayor's Office of International Affairs regarding the requests and the protocols around flags. If you'd like to, why don't you go ahead and speak to this?
Hi, good afternoon. Paulina Guzman. I'm the Deputy Director for the Mayor's Office of International Affairs. So I believe this resolution was is in consideration. I think before passing this resolution, I would suggest a few areas of consideration. First, the flags out in the City Hall atrium are in fact representing the 17 sister cities of the City of Atlanta. One consideration is with the installation of any new flags, you run the risk of displaying favoritism to any country that may want to display a flag out in the atrium. We have often organized these types of events, Councilmember Bond, which you were just referring to, and I think that may be where the discrepancy is. The Office of International Affairs absolutely welcomes events to be organized at City Hall from a variety of different countries. We've organized events with Canada, with France, with Germany, many different countries, and we would absolutely be open and welcome to organizing an event in the atrium and collaborating with you on that opportunity. The flags is another, it can be a bit tricky in that regard because the City of Atlanta has over 70 members of the diplomatic corps that are represented here. We have over 30 binational chambers of commerce and many other countries that are represented here. And we often get these requests for the flags. So I think at this point, we should, I would recommend to stay with the 17 sister flags that are represented out in the City Hall atrium, rather than inviting new flags to come in prior in the occasion that it may display favoritism to many other countries. A second consideration, which Councilmember Shook had mentioned as well, is this the historical relationship between Pakistan and India and the complexities involved with this relationship as well. So that's definitely something that would definitely need to be considered if both flags were to be raised. And also, if there is interest in establishing new sister cities, what the Office of International Affairs has really been engaging in instead are strategic partnerships. This is an opportunity for us to focus on specific areas of alignment, whether it's youth development, whether it's humanitarian affairs, whether it's civil and human rights, whether it's trade, education, cultural affairs, or arts. And so with that, with those strategic partnerships, we can engage more closely, and it is a much more sustainable relationship that we can have with those respective countries. So, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Bond, please.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to meet you. Yes, everyone got a letter that was addressed to me, distributed here at the table, which I think is fine because it's all subject to public records. And I appreciate you willing to be a co-host of our reception when we present India with the proclamation on the anniversary of the 75th anniversary. But, you know, this letter and those notions are kind of an echo of a program that's 12 years defunct. And, you know, if Atlanta, you know, my godfather, the late John Lewis, said that the city of Atlanta needed to be the capital of the 21st century in the world, a place, a crossroads where all people can find peace and understanding. And in talking about Pakistan and India here in America, you know, we're talking about representing the native countries of persons who are contributing to Atlanta, who are in business in Atlanta, who are raising their families in Atlanta, who are paying taxes in Atlanta. Now, I understand that there's been wars and there have been conflicts between them, but there have also been wars with Germany. There's also been atrocities committed in Germany against Americans of all stripes. There have been massacres of African American soldiers in Germany that were shot by so much machine gun fodder that they couldn't identify their bones or their bodies. There have been atrocities against other countries. The British burned our Capitol in Washington, D.C. to the ground. There is a wealth of human tragedy associated with most countries and conflicts in our past. But at a certain time, if we're going to hold ourselves out to be the city too busy to hate, that we're going to be the city that wants to be an international city, a welcoming city, based on the philosophy or the cell of the philosophy of Dr. Martin Luther King, which is by extension the philosophy of Mahatma Gandhi, then we need to do that. And we don't need to quibble or be in discord about honoring the peoples who live here in our city, who are citizens of our city, who financially contribute to our city, who are contractors in our city, who employ people, who service us, and not be afraid to say Atlanta is a place where these two things can coexist. I was first approached by those from the Indian community, and in a strange fit of fate, was approached in a very separate way from the Pakistani community. And I think it's appropriate. And I hope the people who signed on think it's appropriate too. That, we've got flags out there, 17 flags, and they've got dust on them. It wouldn't bother me if we ringed that whole level of the second floor of the City Hall atrium with flags from all the diverse countries that seek to make Atlanta their home, that have offices here, that have representation here. That would be a good thing. And that actually would be a great amenity from when the Reid administration painted it and tainted the color of the atrium, brought it down and made the chamber and the surrounding rings not match anymore. I think it would be a good thing. And I understand the concerns that Mr. Shook raised, but there's plenty of disaster in the past of man. But Atlanta is supposed to be the place where the future takes off, where we say all men and women are equal here, brothers and sisters here, and coexist peacefully here. So I would move approval.
All right, there's a motion from Bond to approve. Is there a second? I'll second. All right, there's a second from Dozier. I'm going to make a substitute motion to hold, and I'll explain why. I don't disagree with the spirit that this is brought in and what we should be representing, but I also respect the protocols. I'm nervous about that piece. I don't want us. I think the recommendations, which Mr. Bond, by the way, I asked for this during briefing, just to understand the protocols around the flags in the atrium, because I wasn't completely familiar. I think there's a path forward that establishes a way to create, in the light of the Sister City program being somewhat dormant, to create a new category that would allow us to bring flags in. But until that time, I feel like we'd be wading into waters that perhaps it'd be advisable just to take that time, that valuable time, to think through this and work through it. Again, there's a path forward. We just got to walk through it, is my opinion. So that's my substitute motion, seconded by Shook. Further discussion on the substitute motion?
I just add also that, I respect the opinion of my colleague, Councilmember Bond. I'd say that, for myself, I'm a finance major. I don't have a history degree, and so I think it's important that we defer to those who, know the complexities of these two relationships and kind of defer to them in making a decision that could be as impactful as this. And so I also would, go along with the recommendation to hold this so that we can have a greater and broader conversation around, what this complex relationship is like and figuring out what the next step should be in supporting this. But I think there is a path forward. But I think further discussion is definitely needed upon this conversation.
Bond, and then, let Mr. Shook make a comment, and Mr. Bond, you can have the floor.
Yeah, no, I support the idea that let's bring people together. India and Pakistan have horrible human rights records. So I'm kind of curious to know what our sister city is going to be with Pakistan, the one that gave sanctuary to Osama bin Laden. I'm sorry, Mr. Bond, I know you're on your phone, but...
No, I'm not on my phone.
Okay, well, looks like you're on your phone, but that's my comment. Thank you.
I have my notes on my phone. I'm not on my phone.
Mr. Bond, you have the floor.
Thank you. Well, I'll just speak against the motion to hold. Being timid never did anything for Atlanta. We can hold these, but we're essentially, if we were to do that, we would be shrinking from what Atlanta is actually built upon in the modern era. You can't say that. Well, I would venture to say that Mahatma Gandhi, and certainly Dr. Martin Luther King, and currently our former mayor and ambassador, Andrew Young, would be pushing us to move forward in a bold way, and not in a timid way. And I would hope that we would not support the motion to hold.
Thank you, Mr. Bond. Any further discussion on the motion? All right, seeing none, we have the motion to hold in front of us. Let's open that vote, please.
Thank you. The vote is open. The vote is closed.
4 yeas, 1 nay. The motion carries. These items will be held. Deputy Director, though, two follow-up items, though. This is a good reminder that we probably need to revisit the Sister City program and decide what we're going to do about that. Either we're going to do it or we aren't, right? And then second, I think there is an opening here to create either a complementary, concurrent, or new program that allows us to expand our partnerships and collaborations with other countries. So with the new office that y'all are creating, let this be one of the tasks.
I would absolutely agree. In fact, there are currently 3 vacancies that city council representatives are able to appoint for the commission. So that's also a subject for consideration.
Thank you. Chuck.
Well, that was my question. Thank you. I'm just wondering what kind of input council has, and so we have 3 spots, and all 3 are vacant.
Correct.
Okay.
On, please.
How many administration spots are vacant?
2 currently.
And when was the last time the Sister Cities Commission met?
They meet every other month, virtually.
Virtually?
Yes.
How many people are on there now?
Well, there's 17 sister cities. There's a chair for each committee. As far as active committee members, it's about 4 to 6 folks.
So not a quorum?
Not so much, no.
So they're not actually meeting?
They're meeting, but...
If there's no quorum, there's no meeting.
Right.
Assembling.
They're assembling.
That's right, Avengers. Well, I'll just say I'm extremely disappointed, particularly since we'll be bringing the folks from India down here in a couple of weeks. And we have to explain to them that the city that they have relocated to, the city that's a shining city on the hill, is too timid to embrace a brave new world. Unfortunate. But, Mr. Chair, I need to be excused.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bond.
Thank you.
All right, colleagues, I know, I understand. Now that means we do not have a quorum, so I'm going to ask Ms. Bakhtiari or Ms. Waits or Mr. Shook. I think Mr. Shook should be back in a second. All right, Ms. Linda, are you reaching out to them? All right, I'm going to go ahead and read in the next legislation. See if we can get quorum in time by the time the vote comes up. It's 22-R4166, resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute the First Amendment to to agreement number listed, citywide security guard services with Dynamic and Safeguard Security on behalf of the Department of Enterprise Asset Management to add the Mayor's Office of Emergency Preparedness as an authorized user in an amount not to exceed $1,986,765.30. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the fund, department, organization, and account number listed herein and for other purposes. All right, Mr. Santiago, you have the floor. Oh, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Chair Juan and other members of the council. Chris Davis, the Deputy Commissioner, Department of Enterprise Asset Management. Purpose of this resolution is to enter into the second renewal with the actually it's entered to the amendments for the being able to add Enterprise Asset Management Department of Emergency Preparedness to this contract, and to transfer the citywide security guard services over into the department, to the Emergency Preparedness Department, as well as to transfer the funding stream over to that office for an operation of the services.
All right. Questions? All right, I do have a question. So I'll be supportive of this, but if I understand correctly, the first resolution we did was earlier this year for let's say $2.5 million, right? And this amendment, we're basically adding another $2 million to it less than 3 months later. So I want to caution us. These are the kind of procurements that makes the public nervous. Because essentially this is a $4.5 million contract now, and if we had procured it as a $4.5 million contract, could we have gotten different results? So I'm just making note of that, but again, I'll be supportive of this, and I see the Chief Procurement Officer out there. You and I have discussed this. So with that, I'll make the motion to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Winston. Any further discussion on this?
Yeah, I want to hear about the overage.
No, actually, we just transferred the funding stream, so we're adding the 1.9. So we're not increasing the overall pack. We're just adding the total packages over to the Emergency Preparedness Department that was originally in the Dean's budget, and we're transferring the funds over to that.
That's not how the legislation reads. I mean, it says to add additional funding to the agreement. It's not a transfer of the original to a different department.
Yeah, it's a transfer, but what we're doing, we're adding additional services adding additional buildings to the contract as well. So you got 185, you got 160 that we're actually adding to the contract that was not on the original contract.
I'm going to amend my motion then to add a condition that the language in the legislation clarify that and make that more explicit so that the funding hasn't changed, we're just shifting departments. Yeah, Dr. Wilson.
During the FY23 budget process, this exact $1.9 million was transferred from Dean's budget to the Office of Emergency Preparedness. So the language may not be particularly clear, but in actuality, the 1.9 was physically transferred through the budget. So this is not an additional amount of money for that contract. Those funds have already been added to the Office of Emergency Preparedness.
Okay, so the funds. Okay, so then is there a corresponding decrease of $1.9 million in the original?
In Dean's budget, that's correct. That happened during the FY20 budget process.
So I'm going to. That'll be my motion, though, is that the language in the legislation does not reflect that at all. So I'm going to make that condition. Who made the second? Did you?
Oh, I might still have the floor.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Why is the additional money needed?
So we added 2 additional facilities to the contract that we didn't have previously.
Which were?
Which was 160 Trinity and 185 Ted Turner
Why wasn't that in the original proposal?
At the time when we did the original solicitation, those two buildings, those two facilities were not on our purview at that time.
All right, so you seconded and you're good with the new motion? All right. Is there any further discussion on this? Ms. Lindo, are you okay?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, all right. I just knew there were some side conversations. All right, so the motion is to approve on condition of substitute, is this a resolution? Yep, on Monday. So thank you. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open.
Sorry about the misunderstanding.
Please vote. The vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. This item is approved on condition. All right, next item, 22-04167. We have an amendment on this one. So it's a resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute the second amendment to add funding to a joint task order fund in an amount not to exceed $2,500,000.00 annually for use under two managing general contracts, MGC, and authorizing the Commissioner of the Department of Parks and Recreation or his designee to issue task orders under contract numbers listed, A, Kissberg Parker Fry, a joint venture, and B, Leidy Soco, a joint venture, to provide managing general contractor services for the Department of Parks and Recreation on a task order basis for projects at various parks and recreation locations. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the additional accounts listed herein and for other purposes. Mr. Thompson.
Good evening again. Yes, good evening again, council members. This is the resolution authorizing the adding of funds to the amendment, which was our managing general contractors agreement, in which we utilize it for contracting ADA improvements throughout the city and for various other purposes. So this will increase the joint tax order authorization by $2.5 million from those listed accounts.
Colleagues, again, I forgot, there is an amendment on that, and I'll make the motion to amend. It adds the language for 2 years after annually in the caption and throughout the legislation, and then deletes the text contingent upon approval of funding in the FY23 budget in the second be it further resolved clause. So I'll make the motion to amend. Can I get a second on that? Seconded by Winston. Let's open the vote to amend.
Question?
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Shook.
Yeah, is the prospective commissioner here?
No, sir, and not right now. Not currently.
Oh, he was. No, there he's back in the back.
Oh, sorry. Commissioner, I see you behind. Yeah, he's here now. Sorry. Yes.
Good for you. Any comments?
Come on up to the mic. Wait.
Now you got to come up to the mic. Yeah.
We have a great team at DPR, and I defer to Mr. Thompson, our budget manager. He's done a great job, and we met earlier this week to go over some of these items, and I think this will help us be able to complete some projects that are important to council members and our neighbors in a timely fashion. So thank you for your support.
Before you leave the mic, you have to introduce yourself officially for the viewing audience.
Our viewing audience, Justin Cutler, Commissioner of Parks and Recreation. Thank you.
All right, other questions? All right.
If you'll please step up to the mic also, list your birth date, full name, age, weight, height, eye color.
Social Security number.
All right, so we have the motion to amend open on the table.
The vote's closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. The item is amended. You've heard the discussion on any further questions on this paper. Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve as amended. Is there a second? Seconded by Bakhtiari. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote's closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. This item is approved as amended. Thank you. Next item is 22-R4168, Resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to exercise the second renewal option for FC 10314, citywide vending services with A Action Janitorial, Inc., doing business as A Action Vending, Inc., on behalf of the Department of Enterprise Asset Management and other listed city departments for a period of 1 year, effective September 21, 2022 through September 20, 2023, and to execute the Second Amendment to the agreement to add new vending machines at 55 Trinity Avenue, 185 Ted Turner Drive, and 160 Trinity Avenue, subject to the agreement's existing revenue share arrangement, all funds to be deposited in the fund department organization and account number listed herein and for other purposes. Davidson.
Good afternoon again. Chris Davis with the Deputy Commissioner, Department of Dean. Purpose of this resolution is to enter into the second renewal with A Action, our current vending machine contractor. In addition to that, we also wanted to add additional facilities so that we can actually increase the number of vending machines to the contract.
Any questions for Mr. Davis? There's a motion from Juan, second from Davis, from Chuck. Let's open the vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote's closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. This item is approved. Next item, 22-R4169, a resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to execute special procurement agreement number listed, Fleet and Fuel Management System, Maintenance and Support, Asset Works LLC, on behalf of the Department of Public Works, Office of Fleet Services, pursuant to Section 2-1191.1 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, for a term of 1 year, retroactively effective July 1, 2022 through June 30, 2023, in an amount not to exceed $123,556.77. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the Fund Department organization and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes. All right, Mr. Robinson.
Hey, good afternoon, Chairman Juan and council members. Keith Robinson, Deputy Commissioner for Department of Public Works. What we have is a resolution before you which will allow Fleet Services to continue using its platform that it uses to manage fuel systems for the city and also manage maintenance records and the history of vehicle repairs at the city for a period of 1 year.
All right, questions for Mr. Robinson? Just, I do have one. Go.
Why the retroactive activity?
We're still in the process of actually evaluating the actual platform itself. So we've got a new leadership team in place, at Fleet Services, which started. So we wanted to make sure that we actually have more input before we move forward, as we move forward.
Okay. So I understand there's some boxes you got to check. I'm just wondering why we're behind schedule.
We've got new leadership in place. So we just installed new leadership at Fleet Services that we are actually catching back up to where these guys were.
I'll hand it off to Mr. Juan.
Right, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Bakhtiari. There's no further discussion. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote's open. The vote's closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. This item is approved. Next item is 22-R4170. There is a substitute with a revised caption. I'll read in the caption and make the motion to bring forward the substitute. It's 22-R4170, a substitute resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the reemployment of Bruce Bell as the Director of the Office of Contract Compliance, Executive Offices, pursuant to Section 3-505A of the Charter of the City of Atlanta, Georgia, for a period not to exceed 520 business days. Compensation will be charged to and paid from the Fund Department organization and account number listed in an annual amount not to exceed $104,500.00. And to ratify the terms of the previous contract for the reemployment of Bruce Bell as Director of the Office of Contract Compliance, Executive Office, and for other purposes. I'll move to bring forward the substitute. Is there a second? Seconded by Shook. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. The substitute is before us. I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Ingram.
Good afternoon, Chairman Juan, members of the council. Appear before you this afternoon to speak to this resolution regarding Director Bell. He's been with us, and there are actually two critical inflection points, and I want to also recognize some of what's going on here, because when I first joined the city in May of 2021, I began talking with Bruce Bell because I understood that he was in this 520-day recapture program, and we began talking about succession planning. But there were two critical inflection points that we needed to also recognize as we plan, and one of which was our 5-year disparity study. Every 5 years, there's a disparity study. Bruce led over the last few months, or first few months of my tenure with the city, led our efforts to make sure that we delivered the disparity study on time and to deliver it well, and he did a great job doing that. There's another critical inflection point that's coming up, but I will say, and that's the concessionaire's license renewals at the airport. Bruce is spearheading that effort to make sure that we do the appropriate outreach, and we anticipate that by November we will be able to announce who those selected concessionaires are. Simultaneously, we've had discussions about Bruce's succession, and he's going to be involved in helping us to find his successor over the next several months. And also, the COO has been involved in those conversations with Bruce as well. So he's very well aware that the plan is to move forward now with executing on a succession plan. So I did want to make sure that I made note of that before you today.
I've been just reminded, just for the sake of the viewing audience, you need to introduce yourself.
Sorry, I thought I mentioned that. Well, Jason Ingram, Deputy Chief Operating Officer. Thank you for the reminder.
Yep. Questions, Mr. Shook, and then I have a question as well.
So, Mr. Bell, thank you for your service. Thank you. And how long have you been in your foxhole?
38 short years. I started when I was 3. You thought you were the most tenured person here.
No. Thank you again. The administration didn't know you'd been here 38 years and you weren't going to be here another 38 years?
2 years is a max.
Well, look, I'm going to support this. Okay, because thank you, and
thank you.
We need your services, but I will make my speech that I make from time to time, which is when you have an employee who's been here 38 years, ain't going to be here another 38 years, figure it out. Thank you. Thank you for your service. I appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
Mr. Ingram, I do want to acknowledge that the substitute does cover a gap, though, that should have been done when he was done, and that was acknowledging the rehire of a former employee, correct?
That's correct. That was brought to my attention, and that predated me. So Commissioner Norman did brief me on that, and we acknowledged that.
Okay. Wanted to make sure we... all right, so there is I'll make the motion to approve on substitute. Can I get a second, please? Seconded by Winston. If there's nothing else, let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open.
Aye. Populating vote.
The vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. This item is approved on substitute.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you. All right. Did I miss one? Oh, no. All right, so this moves us to dual referred items. We have two that came out favorably from PSLA, Public Safety. First one is 22-01619. It's an ordinance by Councilmember Dustin Hillis authorizing the Chief Financial Officer of the City of Atlanta to amend the FY 2023 budget by transferring funds from the Planning Private Property Demolition Fund and adding funds to the Atlanta Police Department Private Property Demolition Fund in the amount of $3,000,000 for the purpose of providing funding for the performance of in-rem demolition of dilapidated structures and for other purposes. Came out favorably from Public Safety. Is there any discussion or question from my colleagues? All right, there's a motion from Shook to approve, seconded by Dozier. Let's open that vote.
The vote is open. is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. This item is approved by FEC. Next item, 22-R4039, a resolution by council members Lewis, Waits, Bond, Winston, Dozier, Boone, and Overstreet requesting that during the 2023 session of the Georgia General Assembly, the General Assembly vet local governments, including counties and municipalities with a specific authority to utilize their police powers in order to enact regulations of retail gas stations, service stations, and convenience stores to require installation of surveillance cameras and to require integration of cameras to the local local police departments' public safety program networks and for other purposes. Came out favorable from public safety. Any discussion on this item? Is there a motion? Motion from Shook to approve, seconded by Dozier. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. Please vote. It was closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. This item is approved. All right, so takes us to papers held. We have one item coming up. It is item number 43, and there is a substitute. I'll read in the caption and make that motion. It's a 22-0-1389 substitute ordinance by Finance Executive Committee to amend sections 146-26B, C, D, E, F, and G of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Atlanta, so as to change the ad valorem tax rate of real and personal property for the general levy, debt levy, city parks levy, school operating levy, school debt levy, the special tax district levy, and the Atlanta Beltline Special Service District levy, to provide that the tax rates established herein shall remain fixed each year until amended or appealed and for other purposes. I'll move to bring forward the substitute. Need a second, please? Second. Seconded by Winston. Let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. The motion carries. The substitute is before us. Mr. Davis.
Good afternoon, council members. I'm Lawrence Davis, Revenue Chief for the Office of Revenue. Before you this afternoon is the substitute ordinance that includes the final rates for the general levy, the debt levy, park levy, educational levy, special tax district library levy, and the Atlanta Belt Special Service District levy. As you know, on June the 21st, ordinance number 22-0-1332 was adopted by council to align with the city's FY23 budget process prior to receipt of the final tax digest from Fulton County and DeKalb County, and prior to receipt of the final Atlanta Public School levy and the special tax district library levy. As of last month, the Office of Revenue did receive the final tax digest both from both counties, as well as the levies associated with the Atlanta Public School and the public library. And in accordance with state law, the Office of Revenue had the final millage rates published in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution on Monday, August the 8th of 22. As a result of acquiring the final rates and executing the 7-day notice, the Office of Revenue is requesting for this ordinance to be adopted by council on Monday, August the 15th, to impose the city's final 2022 millage rate on real and personal property with the appropriate levies as previously stated.
All right, questions for Mr. Davis. Mr. Shuck.
And how does this align with prior year?
In regards to...
Deposit millage rate. Right.
So, in regards to the notice or in regards to the rates themselves?
No, the rates. What?
Okay, so in regards to the rates themselves, we do have an increase in the general levy due to the already...
Wait, speak up, say that again.
So in the rates, we do have increases from the library, and we have increase from the public school system, as well as we do have our general levy, which was at one point at is now at 8.52, which includes the 0.67 that was approved by council for the solid waste rate.
Right. But what about the city's rate compared to prior year?
The prior year, we're only up by the 0.67.
And that's the solid waste being added?
That's all. Yes, sir.
Other questions? All right, I'll make a motion to approve on substitute. Is there a second? Seconded by Winston. If there's no further discussion, let's open that vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays, motion carries. This item is approved on substitute. All right, Ms. Lindo, I believe that takes care of all our legislative items.
That's correct, Mr.
All
Chair.
right, colleagues, that now takes us into general remarks. I do have two announcements. The first one is just a reminder that there is going to be a joint work session tomorrow, August 11th at 9 a.m. in this committee room jointly with CDHS regarding HOPWA funding. I believe we're going to hear from a lot of the service providers as additional feedback to that reform and process and update. Anything else we should add to that? Second thing is I just want to also let you know that Ms. Lindo and I are going to be meeting to look, now that we're past the halfway mark in the year, to look at the 2022 goals and objectives for our committee. If there's anything on there specifically that you want to lift and make sure that we program into the second half of the year, please let me know. Two that I'm going to champion or focus in on are going to be around the TADS, and the second one being the commercial property assessments. So just know that those two are queued up, but if there are others, please let me know. And the commercial property assessments we're likely going to do jointly with CDHS through the Invest Atlanta redevelopment piece as well. But yeah, if you'll let either me or Ms. Lindo know before the next meeting, that way we can make sure we can get to those in the second half. All right, any other announcements? All right, there's a motion from Shook to adjourn. It's not debatable. We now stand adjourned. Thank you.